We're ready to go. Where's Perry? Oh.
Yeah, Penny. I know.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the council meeting for the 4th of September 2024. And could we please open our meeting with our usual karakia? Thank you. And Councillor Tamihana is just walking into the room, and he has asked if we could acknowledge the passing of Maori King this week, and so I'd like to invite Councillor Tamihana to do that, please.
Miana ki a tātou. Mauri ki runga, mauri ki raro, mauri ki roto, mauri ki waho, mauri ki te heretanga, ka korongota pō, korongota ao, whiti whanau harama te mauri, haumi e hui e, tae ki e. Katu ake au e mihi ana ki a koe, e te ariki kua whitirangi tia, e te ariki kua hinga, kua riro atu. E te kingi tuhei tea po tātou te whero te tuawhutu, e moe e koe. E moe ki te taha o tō whānau, e moe ringi te mahu o tō whare o mahinarangi, a kei ronga te marae o tūranga waiwai. Ki tō taha, te tini me te mano o te iwe Māori kua tai mai, me ngā waka huri no ki te motu i tautoko ana i a koe i te wā o te pauritanga. E te kingi e tākuto, e tākuto, e tākuto. E huri no ki anei, te kirimate, kia kaha, kia maia, kia manawa nui, i tēnei wā pauri. I rote ngā kupu o te kingi nei, kia kotahi ai tātou te iwi Māori, huri no ki te motu, kia whaiake nei te huarahi tika pono mā tātou katoa, i rongi i tēnei wā mā tātou katoa. A kāti e nei, kōrero i rungi i tō tātou nei kingi, engari he mihana ki a rātou mā huri no ki tō tātou nei taki wā hoki, e moe, e oki o. A mauri ora ki a tātou ki tēnei, i mihana ki a tātou te kānohi aro ki a tātou i tēnei wā, a tēnā koutou katoa. Just wanted to have the opportunity first and foremost at this time to acknowledge the passing of Kingi Tuheitia. I wanted to acknowledge his family, me te tōrona tapu, me ngā iwi o te kingitanga around and across this nation that have come together and gathered in their thousands to be at his side and to pay respects to him and his leadership, and to also pay homage to those that he took the reign from, those other rangatira before him. Also wanted to acknowledge, of course, his mother, Tautarangi Kahu, and the mahi that she did not only in our district but around the motu, and the much support the kingitanga have given across our landscape. I also wanted to acknowledge those others within our area that have lost loved ones, particularly recently within Horowhenua, and our thoughts and prayers go out to each and every one of you. It's important that we take time to reflect on these matters and share our aroha to those many families and those impacted whānau, not only here but around our country and around our nation. I think that I wanted to leave us with some words today from Te Kingi, and have been shared by many across the motu over the last weeks. But some words that he left with us were, while we are currently facing a storm, there's no need to worry. In the storm we are strong together. The wind in our sails is kotahitanga, And with that, we will reach our destination. And we hold fast to those words. So kia kotahi ai tātou te iwi Māori, kia tātou nei hoki o ngā hāpuri huri no ki tamotu. Tēnā koutou, a tēnā koutou, a kia ora mā tātou katoa.
Justin, thank you very much. Yeah, no doubt a sad event, and a special man he obviously was in terms of his unifying of many parts of this country. And my wish for the betterment, whatever flows out from this sad event, will be good for the country as a whole. So today we obviously have an important decision to make around our retaining or disestablishing Māori wards, but before we get there, there are a couple of procedural items that we have to follow. We've got no apologies today. Everyone is here, which is great. But we do have some members of the public who wish to talk to us. And the first one is Charles. Charles, if you'd like to join us at the table.
Kia tātou katoa. Sorry, Bernie, you gave me a fright, called me up first. Okay. Anyway, the subject I'm going to talk about is on 9.3, Proceedings of the Community Wellbeing Committee and Other Matters. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. The people, the people, the people. Health, safety and well-being. Past, present and future, and the cause and the effects on the people from the environment, what's happening to our environment. Consideration, do you really care about the safety of the staff, the visitors coming into this building? I asked that question because I worked in the deep system of winds, and then there we had an earthquake, and those things come tumbling down. Lucky it didn't hit the staff. So what I'm saying, you should be supplying helmets for the people and the visitors to this building. Really think about it, because if you have a good earthquake, they're going to come down throughout this building. Community. What is a community? A community is the people living in the locality. Well-being. The condition of being contented, healthy, successful, and to do with your welfare. Now, ongoing threats are not being addressed by the local territorial authorities, right? Polluted and contaminated stormwater system connected to Lake Horowhenua, not being addressed. The Hakea stream right issue by the Tartana property in the vicinity of the Living landfill, that's not really being addressed. Pollution and contamination from the Living landfill, threats to Māori fishing rights, threats to the residential community, their neighbours, visitors, and the coastal moana. This council is not addressing any of those issues. Climate change, the pot, serious fire risk out there with the slash out there. When it comes summertime, what's happening overseas, it's going to happen here. The Living landfill, serious fire risk, the slash in that area. And that could affect the community. That could burn that community out, go onto the forest, burn that out, and even that Wairori township, that could be burnt right out. So that slash got to be addressed. Now, where it comes from, on page 184, reference to the best practical option 3. The NLG, because on that piece of paper, the NLG did not agree with the recommendation on BOP3. It was a presentation only, no discussion. So it's an error to put that there was discussion that the NLG agreed on it. It didn't. The serious weed problem in Hakea Stream in the vicinity of the children's playground is not being urgently addressed. And like I've said with you people in Regional Council, if a child gets drowned up there, I'm going to take someone to court for manslaughter. And I have to look at my two representatives of Horowhenua as the first instance. And then the reps over in Horizons Regional Council as well. These things got to be managed. You can't have a blooming resource consent which could take a year and the kid could drown within that year. Kia ora tātou. He Pātai. Any questions?
Thank you, Charles, as always, for your varied commentary around all the things that we are doing. Councillor Proctor, were you going to make a...
Yeah, Charlie, I think Hell just froze over, so I'm going to agree with you here today.
Okay,
But going through a recent risk exercise in the Horowhenua with CDM groups and Horizons and NEMA, one of the highest hazards in our region is actually from algae blooms, botulism outbreaks, the degradation of our environment as well, and the transfer of those pathogens over to humans is a serious risk for this region, particularly with the condition of our lake and wetlands as well. And so it does need to be taken seriously, Charlie.
Oh, kia ora.
Councillor Tamihana.
Tēnā koe te papa. Tautoko ana o ngā kōrero. I just wondered whether it was worth, through our CEO, if she was able to describe for the listeners about the responsibilities between Horowhenua District Council and Horizons Regional Council. I think it's important that we actually understand what our roles are and who's responsible for what. Kia ora.
Kia ora, and through you, Your Worship. Specific to the concerns that you raise around Hookio stream, Charles, which as an organisation we're well aware of, we're in direct conversations with Horizons as well as the Lake Trust. It is Horizons Regional Council that are responsible for the maintenance and management of streams and rivers in this district. The challenge we have with the particular part of the stream that you're talking about is that it is not included in Horizons Regional Council's catchment or rating plan, and so therefore their view is they don't have mandate nor do they have money to fix it. We know that that's not the answer to the problem, and that's why there are elected members involved in conversations with Horizons around how we can respond to what we agree is a really serious challenge at Hookio.
Oh, kia ora. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. Viv, would you like to join us?
Tēnā koe, tēnā katoa. I too have a quick subject about the page 84 monitoring report by D. Haig. He made a statement saying that NLG and iwi, and now I've just learned from Charles about the PMG have not been had any discussion about this option 3, and we'd like to have a request, a follow-up and a correction, please, so that you can alter it. If we're going to have anything recorded in your records, please, Mayor, can we have the truth put out there? Thank you. Right, the second subject I want to speak to is the Horowhenua Trust Company report, okay? I'm speaking to the Horowhenua Trust report. I, as a ratepayer, feel that the contract shouldn't be renewed. Mr. Clapperton started along with the blueprint report, which stripped Horowhenua of property assets, sold for a fraction of the price to a trust company they on-sell, creating money for the company to work on. Development ideas for rates recessions, avoidance of development and infrastructure costs. Or they have also just put a new one in saying you don't have to pay for the cost of development or infrastructure until the sale of the land. This example is the Tatum Park development, which will cripple Horowhenua ratepayers in generations to come even more because of the chapel that is there. Or the costs will then be picked up by HDC.
Sorry,
Wait a minute.
But that's got nothing to do with the economic report.
It is because in reality the blueprint is the part that I'm criticising. It is Monique, you said that if you have a chapel or a charity, you do not have to pay development contributions. Yes? And you said that at a ratepayers meeting. Okay, right. I only got 5 minutes, Fanny. I've got to speak with my says, okay? On the plus side, it is interesting to see the intelligence gathering in the form of the graphics, page 7 or page 111 in the agenda, showing how Horowhenua's economy has or is withdrawing activity. I love the one about car registrations and things like that, and how increased consumer spending was only up $100, but it's 25%. Okay, Transforming Levin has a shoulder-tapped committee of like-minded people for their closed workshops, never caring about the others in the community, even to have in a public engagement under the rules of democracy. Under what is a place of identity? A community. Our Memorial Hall, the Village Green and Island Skate Park, Major Kemp's legacy. Our parents and grandparents raised money to establish that hall. The community project building like Tutakari was with the men's shed and Tom Hayes, etc., was a great success. Now the Tartners, the Prestons, the Riders, the Bartholomews, the Easterns, the Puckies, many more have recipes in this recipe book that they put out to raise money for that hall. And yet you have decided to write it off and sell it off. And I believe that, don't skip the part. Okay, recipe book to raise funds for the hall. That hall is our identity and was solidly made. The Historical Society was told by HDC's planner, David McCorkindale, in an AGM this year, as he came along to a speaker of what they were planning to do. I feel this word strategy should really be called grooming. If tourists really matter to this town, then clean up Ruapoka Park, where people eat for their lunch. Put in toilets at work. Do tree maintenance for those poor retailers so they get less leaves. Without layers of inbuilt costs with people like Downers, Horowhenua Alliance, Park and Recreation, and the Horowhenua Company, more rates would flow and not just stormwater. HDCs say they're broke, so they cancelled the children's Christmas parade. What is Christmas about? If it's not, is it an illusion for children? HDC keep pushing the blueprint and Horowhenua Trust, which with the rich getting richer, some get 44 million plus, and the rest of us are like the snails and the slinks down on the O2NL, to be moved off, and even though we were the first here. The latest push seems to be the one last push to get the last of the First Nations land for the gluttonous rich, with overseas buyers lined up. Outsiders from Horowhenua, people have been told, don't go there, the costs will cripple you. And every year it gets worse in the long-term plan. There were a closed meeting on the 26th of September, 5 to 6, 1 hour. HDC will present a fait accompli about transforming Levin. Finally, a puppet show with who pulls the strings, no accountability. People can't afford cars, transport, insurance is another one we can't afford, food, rates, life. What's good is a council that doesn't listen? What is good about a council that doesn't listen? Since 2017, rates have doubled. Thank you very much for listening. Any questions?
Thank you, Viv. As always, a great range of different topics and issues covered there. Some I will say inaccurately.
My mum would say if we were all the same, it would be a boring old world.
What I would suggest, though, Viv, that if you do want answers to a lot of those things, then it might be an opportune time before a meeting to actually give me a call, come and visit me or something like that, and we can talk about some of those things that you have raised.
So no, I won't have. That's why you need to come. You leave the chief executive out of it, and obviously you've missed the news about the Christmas parade being back on this year. We put tenders out for everybody. Yeah. Higgins are doing us a huge charitable favour in terms of providing what they are for the Christmas parade. Thank you. All right. Look, I know there are some members of the audience that are going to speak to us on the Māori Ward issue, and I will get to you when that comes up in the agenda, which will be the first item after we just get through a couple of things. And I'm now going to invite Councillor Tukapua, who wishes to make an announcement.
Thank you, Mayor Bernie. My announcement is to publicly notify my intention to stand down and depart from my role as a live-in ward councillor as at the 1st of November. I will do a media release of some sort and put my written resignation through as per the advice I've received from our CE. The timing means that this will not trigger a by-election and therefore there'll be no cost to the community. After serving 11 years, my final full council meeting will be on the 30th of October.
Thank you. And obviously there will be a time to recognise your contribution over those 11 years. So appreciate that announcement. Thank you. Right. There are no further late items, are there? Oh, sorry, Councillor Tamiha.
I know you said that we'll say it later, but I think it's appropriate for those of us that wanted to acknowledge Purahira and your huge contributions now. And so I'd like to do that, Purahira, to thank you on behalf of the constituents you represent and the wider district and the massive amount of mahi that you've contributed to our district over a very long period of time. And you're an exemplar and, for our young people. And I hope that people strive to do exactly what you have done. And you stood in a general ward when many were scared to stand in that role, and you've stood there and you've held your space and your place, and you must be acknowledged, and I'm doing that today. So thank you very much. Kia ora.
Thank you. Okay, any members have any declarations of interest they would like to? Councillor Brannigan?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. 8.2, the organisational report, emergency management, part of that. I'll step away if there's any discussion.
So noted. Right, just going to, sorry, Councillor Tamiha.
This could be controversial, it could not be. But I suppose, one of the things I have to do is consider what my conflicts are at particular points in time. And today we're taking a vote on Māori wards, of which I am one. And my understanding is the threshold for anyone that works or under a council, there's a certain amount of money that you're allowed to attract before you are required to do certain things. And I don't have a ministerial, what's the word I'm looking for? Exemption. So I just want to check that it's appropriate for me today to be able to participate in the vote around the Māori ward, given I'm voting about myself and my fellow councillor. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Councillor Tamihana, and through you, Your Worship, just to confirm that my advice is that you can still participate in the decision today. Ultimately, it will be the 2025 election that makes a decision on you personally, depending on your individual choice about the election. It is the same advice that I would provide to any other elected member going into a representation review conversation, that there is no rules prohibiting you from engaging in not just the conversation but the decision. But your point is taken, and it's important to reflect on that.
Thank you very much. Happy to continue.
All right. So just then, just noting the minutes of the 24th of July council meeting and the public excluded council meeting of that date. Can I just have a move and a second of these true and correct record? Councillor Deputy Mayor Allen and Councillor Jennings, all those in favour? Against, carried. All right, so now we're moving to 7.1, the Māori Ward option to retain or disestablish for the 2025 elections, which is on page
15 of your agenda. And I'm going to now ask those members of the public who wish to speak to us, and I have Kelly from MTA, Shane from Te Tūmatakahoki, and Catherine from Te Korahi. If Kelly, you would like to start, please. Just turn the right button on, Kelly. The right one.
The right.
That's it.
Okay. Tēnā tātou katoa, nā mihi nui ki a koutou, I tai mai tēnei ahiahi, ki a koe a Bernie, no te rangatira o tēnei hui, me koe hoki Monique, kei te mihi. Ka toku ngā mihi ki a koe Justin, te whanaunga naui arahi o tātou hui, I tēnei rangi. Ko tuku ngā mihi hoki ki ngā atua, nāna nei I waihanga, ki te aro ki ngā hunga mate, ki te āriki o Kini Tuheitia, e moi. Huri no ki ngā mate o te wā, o te rohe nei, takoto. Ko wai au, ko Kelly Tahi mea hau, he māngai mo te iwi o Muupoko me te tari whakahaere o Muupoko Tribal Authority, I tū mai nei, I kōrero mai nei, kia mātou nei, ka tuku ngā mihi hoki kia John, he puiore, he mema puiore o te Tribal Authority o Muupoko hoki, me kōrua Justin rawa ko Nina, nā kōrua ngā māngai mo ngā iwi Māori, mo ngā nai Māori o tēnei rohe o Horowhenua. Ka tuku ngā mihi kia kōrua mahi, I pāna ki ngā kānohi, E noho ana ki tēnei tepu o te kaunihira o Horowhenua. Kei te mihi. Ka tuku, o huri no ki ngā kaunihira, ki ngā tangata, I noho ai ngā turi o te motu nei. Kei te mihi. Ko tā mātou o Muupoko Tribal Authority, kōrero, I kōrero Dean I tērā wiki, kāre e tini o tātou whakaaro, o mātou whakaaro, e whakai rawa atu, I te mahi tonu, I te tū tonu, I ngā tūru Māori, I tēnei kaunihira o Horowhenua. I tautoko rawa ana I tērā whakaritinga, kaore mātou I tini o tātou whakaaro. So I whakai ki ngā tūru Māori o tēnā kaunihira o Horowhenua, koera o tātou whakaaro o te pori o Muupoko. So ka huri au ki te reo te reo paraua, ka whakamohio, ka whakamārama ai I ngā tangata I noho ana. Ko Kelly Tahi mea hau, he māngai mo I am representing Muupoko Tribal Authority today. Di sends her apologies. She is not able to be here. So I am here to represent and to reiterate again the stance that our iwi and our board of Muupoko Tribal Authority have in regards to the Māori wards and the seats on this council, that we support unanimously the retention of the Māori wards in this council. It has been the board's position that we acknowledge any mahi that promotes, values Māori voice on the council, and that will never change. Our key position is that the voice of the Māori wards do not replace the relationship that our iwi, Muupoko and Muupoko Tribal Authority will have with the council, that the Māori wards represent the voice of the tangata of ai Māori, aha ko te iwi, aha ko ngā hapu, that they represent the voice for Māori on the seat of the Horowhenua Council. And it does not take away our partnership that Mupoko Tribal Authority are the mandated iwi authority for Mupoko and the Horowhenua Council, and that we have our own unique partnership and our own relationship with the council that will endure above and over the Māori wards. So koira o tātou whakaaro, and yeah, just want to reiterate to continue the good work that's already started. I will talk about Tā Hemi Henare. He said we have come this far not to go back, and to recognise the mahi that has gone into having Māori wards on council across the motu, and that because of a few differing voices, minority voices that are in the central government at this time, that it does not impede on the voices that have spoken down in our own communities, that we support Māori wards and that we support Māori voice on our councils. When Māori succeed, the whole community succeeds. And we see that as a priority going forward. Well, I think that's probably all I have to say at this moment, but just congratulations on taking that step forward, Horowhenua Council, and that we continue on the pathway that has already been set. And I would also like to, just while I'm here, just to recognise the mahi that Pirihira has done. She has been a māngai, a face for our iwi, for our rangatahi, and for her whānau. And I know that her whānau would be proud and not of the mahi that she's done. And her koro, Joe Tukupoa, was a strong advocate for the well-being of our environment, for the well-being of our waterways and our rohe. So I just want to mahi to you, Pirihira, and wish you all the best in your journey going forward. Just want to close with our whakatauki, or our vision that we have for our Mupoko Tribal Authority, which is whakahono kia tū kaha mua upoko. Whakahono kia tū kaha means that we all stand together, we are all unite, and we are all strong. So that is a vision, not just only for our iwi, but for our rohe on a whole. So in closing, ngā mihi nui ki a koutou, ko te tūmanako, kia tautoko tonu, te Māori wards, I roto i tēnei kaunihira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ki tā whiri kahu ki tā rarua, te mana pūtake o mapuna I raro, karuku haere I raro, ia papa ki te irere mai arawhata, whakina atu ki te kurai o kohutura, mauri o pariri e te pai pai, o I aro kurai muahi ne me tama, he pai pai a kawiura, hoki atu whātu, ki te uputangi rai mata o te iwi rai, whapuna hau te rara tapu I ta pai, la noha nui ana nai, a e ki utaki ngā tuata wata o rai o te karaka, ko kupe te ko ke runga ka hunuku neke ki pipiriki, ki te tonga, te piringa whakamutunga o te rangi iwi nui e. Kati kahahaere te rao, ki te uru, ko muaru poka te mano, ko mai te ao te uri, ko tu te rewo ana te tangata I titi, te upoko ki te kura harai ni e. Ki hei mauri ora. Kia ora koutou.
Ko tēnā tātai. Ka tiro I te rārangi maunga ko tara rere ko poroporo e tara ruana I te pai o te rana. Ko hamuti ko poke atu e koro wai ana, e tāniku ana I te koro wai a te tuara o te rangi haia. Ka tū au ki poke atua, ki te rākau tura kina I tau eti o haunui ana naia. Wai poke tia I te ruruku o turuhira. Toi atu ki te wai tuku. Kumea rawatia kia whakatūria hei pautoko mana o ki rangi atu. Hoki mai nei au. Ki te pūaha neke o te wai o hau. Te rātōku tani wha muku kai. E tauana I roto I te wā o te taumaha. E tauana ki te wāhi tuatahi no Hawaii au. E ki atu kore he hei iwi I tēnei rohi. Ko te pāhara keke te kāinga tuatahi. Whakawhitia mai te rauawa. Ki tiro whetū. Haere whakatiuta. Ka tai atu ki te kāinga. Tawhi tō tērā te whanake. Ka uta tonu. Ka tai mai ki au. Ki a Ngāti Kapu. Ki a te mate awa. Ko Ngāti tukore he kiuta. Ko te rangi tāwhia ki tai. A tihai mauri ora ki a tatai. Kei ngā māngai o tō tātou hāpuri tēnā koita. Kei ngā taringa o tō tātou hāpuri tēnā koita. Kei te rangatira, kei ngā rangatira e mihi ana. E tikana, ka whakamehi a rangi rau ko papa, ni a rau a tamariki. Rātau ngā atua, ka puta mai ka hua mai ko tātou tīra tangata, tīnā tātou. Ko hau hoki tēnei, e whakamihi atu ana ki tērā o tō tātou pāpō tō tātou kingi e takoto ana ki tōna takotoranga. Tērā, kua roa tātou e whakarongo ana I tēnei wiki tonu. I tētahi tino ona, ko te kotahitanga tērā. Ko te tuitui te kotahitanga ki roto nei ki ngā iwi o te motu. Kia pōhehe nei tātou, e whakakotahi ana ia I te iwi Māori, he tika tērā, engari ko tāno hoki ko te whakakotahi hoki I te iwi o te motu, I ngā iwi o enei motu o ngā whenua o te moana nui aki. O reira, e tangi atu ana ki aia, I te ahiahi nei e tahi o mātou, ka haere atu, ka kawea atu hoki I ngā mate o te waihi nei, tērā mate ai tūkironga o Paririri, I te wiki nei, te whānau klami, ka kawea atu hoki, ngā mate ia mātou, tērā mate o mātou a te Carol McDonald, ka kawea atu ki aia, te ahiahi nei. He oi anō, tāku I tēnei wā ko te tūwhera I ngā kōrero. E hara au I te mānga o te katoa o te iwi, engari ko te hunga ahi kā, ai, ko mātou tēnei. O reira Ngāti tukore e tēnei, mihi atu ana kia koutou. O tira, kia tātou katoa, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou koutou.
This is where you get the beauty part, now that you've had the brains. Ngāti tukore here unwaveringly supports the maintenance of Māori wards. You heard us in 2021 when we talked to you about the local government in terms of Te Tiriti o Waitangi and where we sit and fit within your remit. In particular, around Te Tiriti o Waitangi and to maintain and improve opportunities for Māori. To contribute to local government decision-making process. Well, this is the decision-making process that you sit in this forum here today. It as MTA, as Maupoko have stated quite clearly, it does not remove our partnership, our relationship, our memorandum of partnership that has been enduring since time began, when this council began.
It does not remove them. What it does is it recognises that there are others that sit in our region that we have to be good kaitiaki for. And that can only happen if we have turu at the table that allows their voices also to be heard, and for us together to determine how we can manaaki them in a space that is ours. So we come before you today very clearly stating that Tūkorehe, Ngāti Tūkorehe, and our people support the maintenance of Māori Wards, recognise the contribution that it makes to this table, and understands the value that it gives each and every one of you when making your decisions. For council, for our residents and ratepayers, and more importantly for us as mana whenua, for the area that we sit in. Nō reira. That is us. Yeah.
Mā waira tauri mā te maraiwa hone mā te tika mā te pono me te aro hae.
I forgot to mihi to Councillor Te Kinahi, Māori Ward Councillor for Horizon, who sits behind us. That is important because he sits here not only as shared whakapapa to us, but in recognition of the shared space he has for the decision to make today.
Thank you. Shane, welcome to the table.
Tēnei te mihi kia o tātou e huihu mai tēnei. Te maumaharatanga ki tō tātou kingi a tūheiti. Tērā āhuatanga kei waingi a tātou ka pauri tēnei wā. Aha ko tēnā, tēnei te ohaki mō tōna rā e heke mai. He rā anō tēnā. Koina te kōrero o te kingitanga, he rā anō tēnā. Mōreira, he rā anō tēnei o te kainehira. When the sun comes up tomorrow, it'll be another day. And koina te āhuatanga o tō tātou kaupapa i tēnei rā. Ka ninga mihi ki o koutou, a kai kaunehira te mea. Koutou e hapai i nei āhuatanga kei waingi a tātou. Ka hara mai mātou, i nei karangatanga ki te tautoko o tēnei kaupapa nunui kei waingi a tātou. Nōreira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Firstly, thank you for giving me a second shot at this. I presented last week, I think it was, and I get another go at it. I just want to acknowledge the previous speakers that have supported the Māori Wards. I too support the Māori Wards as a representative of Te Tumata Kahoki, representing 12 of our rākua hapu in the district. I'm here to reiterate, I guess, that support. I do trust that the council will make the right decision. You made it once before in allowing the Māori Wards. We're asking for you again to do the same thing again. I said at my first address that you're the best ones to tell how your colleagues have gone, how they've performed. We are here to support those colleagues, but you're the ones who've sat at the table. You're the ones who've seen what they can do. You're the ones who've seen the time they've put in. You're the ones who've seen the influence they have. You're the ones who perhaps minds have been shifted because of their voice. So I trust that you'll make the right decision, so that when your children and when your mukos look at the records of when these decisions were made, which side of that ledger will you fall on? So that's the only support that I want to bring to the Māori Wards. 184 years since the signing of Te Tuti Waitangi. 184 years of progress. I said it last time, this is progress. We're a patient people. So I just want to leave you with that message. I tautoko our murupoko whānau, I tautoko our tupori whānau, and all the kōrero they had, all of our hapori that are here, those against, those for. That's what rangatira have to do, make decisions, tough ones. And I again congratulate you all for making the right decision. Kia ora.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Te Kenny.
Just wanted to.
Right one.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, it's on.
It's on.
Just wanted to add our kōrero to what has been said to you. Hera. Ka nui ngā mihi ki a koe. O mahi ka nunui kai waingi a tātou. Waingi I nei kai kaini hera. Tēnei te mihi. Tō taha muaupoko. Tō taha o Ngāti Tūkorehe. Tō taha o Ngāti Tūranga. Te Aotearoa. Ngāti Tō. Nei ngā mihi ki a koe. Kaue e rā huatanga kai waingi a tātou. Tēnā tātou.
Thank you all for that, and appreciate the fact that you've bothered to turn up today and give us those messages. And we now are going to get into the debate itself. And Grayson is presenting this report, and so while he comes to the table, can I just move 3.1, 3.2, that the report be received, seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Welcome, Grayson. Welcome, Jacinda.
Thank you, Mayor Bernie. Through your worship, this report seeks Council's decision on whether to retain the Horowhenua Māori Ward for the 2025 local body elections or not. This decision is required by a recent change to the Local Electoral Act, which reintroduces the requirement for local authorities to undertake a referendum before implementing Māori wards. Transitional provisions require councils that introduced Māori wards prior to or without a referendum to either reaffirm or reverse that decision, and must do so no later than the 6th of September 2024. This is a significant decision because it deals directly with representation arrangements, and under normal circumstances, a special consultative process would have been followed. However, the changes to the Act specifically stated that a special consultative process was not required, and regardless the timeframes to make this decision meant the special consultative process was not possible. Council is required, however, to take the views of its community into account in any decisions it makes. To assist, officers undertook a rapid community engagement, asking whether Council should retain its Māori ward or not for the 2025 local body elections. There were 513 unique responses, which were received over a 12-day period. 396 of those indicated a preference to retain the Māori ward. Last Wednesday, you also heard from 11 individuals and groups, and again this afternoon you've heard for some more people in support of the Māori wards. If Council votes to retain the Māori ward, then a binding referendum must be held alongside the 2025 local elections, and that will determine whether Māori wards are retained past that or not. The result of that referendum will be in place for the 2028 and 2031 local body elections. If Council votes to reverse its decision and disestablish the Horowhenua Māori Ward, that decision is in place for the 2025 and 2028 local elections. Other representations or other options for Māori representation, such as appointing Māori to council or its committees or other partnership arrangements, are unaffected by this law change. A number of other matters may fall out of this decision or could fall out of this decision. If, for example, council votes to disestablish the Horowhenua Māori Ward, council will need to undertake a shortened representation review. This is because council's pre-2019 ward boundaries are no longer compliant with the plus or minus 10% representation rule. This is a result of changes in population and movement of population. It is not possible for council to undertake any other representation review at this time. That process would have had to have commenced a number of months ago, and a final proposal for a representation review would have been required to be adopted by this table by July 2024. There is simply insufficient time to undertake a representation review under the Local Electoral Act. Councillors may have followed the debate at other local authorities. Some of the questions raised in those included whether council could avoid a referendum or could ignore the results of that referendum. And the simple answer is no. The elections, including referendums, are outside the control of council, and they will happen simply because the law says they will. Similarly, council can't ignore the outcome of the referendum. There are a number of other considerations and matters that council may wish to consider around Māori representation. However, today's report, though, focuses only on the question required to be answered by changes to the Act. Does council wish to retain its Horowhenua Māori Ward for the 2025 election or not? I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Grayson. Are there any questions for Grayson around the report or clarification sought? Councillor Boyle.
My question is, Monty, as chair of how you might like to approach any changes to the resolutions we've got in front of us.
So once the clarification and questions have been answered, then we will get into the debate, and then there's the opportunity to either put the motion or put an amendment to the motions.
Thanks, Grayson. I just have a sort of off-topic question about representation reviews. You've sparked my interest about representation reviews. So, when is our next scheduled representation review, and when is the next scheduled review after the referendum as well?
The answer to that at this point, it depends on what decision you make. So, if you vote to retain the Māori Ward, the next representation review will be in 2027. If you vote to disestablish the Māori Ward, the next representation review will be prior to the 2031 election.
Not having been through a representation review, what is the sort of scope of, say, the 2027 representation review if we retain wards?
So the 2027 representation review will look at the distribution of the size of wards, how many people are in it, whether people are elected at large or by ward. However, whether or not a Māori ward is part of that, that's not a question that can be at that representation review. The law, as it's been changed, means that whatever we end up with now must stay in place for 2 consecutive electoral cycles.
Through your worship, and just to clarify, Councillor Proctor, when we talk about whatever we end up with now, we mean whatever if council choose to retain Māori wards, the outcome of the referendum is what will be our setup for the next 2 elections following that.
We do have to do a representation every 6 years, and it can be called earlier than that 6 years, but it's a maximum of 6 years out. So it would need to be done before the 2028 election, basically.
in place for them, regardless of the decision today. In some respects, this will be a minor one if there is a move to disestablish, but we'll still have to do the major one, which covers every ward and every way we do it. Councillor Tamihana.
Kia ora, me Bernie. Just the part I really around, because Councillor Proctor's raised the referendum review, I'm interested in a bit more clarity really for the listeners as well. One, because of some of the submissions that we've received, I suppose I could say there's some mis or disinformation. I feel perhaps that's not clear. So I think it would be worthwhile sharing with those that are listening why referendum review occurs. And one of the things that I'm interested in is how a ward's established. Is it based on the populations of the people in those areas? Because one of the things we're being targeted about right now is Māori ward councillors are a direct cost on this district. And I want to be clear for everyone that are we an additional cost on this district, or is it actually a part of the referendum review and how they establish wards?
Okay, so there's the answer to your question doesn't sit with representation review, but I'll give you an answer anyway. So, well, it kind of does. As part of the representation review, that determines, and that's a public consultation process, how many elected members we have around the table. And that may be people elected at large, so they could be anywhere across the district, or it could be based on wards where we have communities of interest that are represented by people in that community. Once that's done, the Remuneration Authority then looks at the size of the ward, the population, economic growth, GDP for that area, and comes up with a pool of money which council needs to spend on its representatives. Okay, so that is fixed, and it doesn't matter how many councillors you have or how few councillors you have, that pool of money doesn't change. So it's the same pie, it's just how many slices you cut it into. So having a Māori ward doesn't impose any additional cost on council.
Thank you, Grace, and I actually really appreciate that answer and the clarity, because what I was really trying to ensure people knew was, one, that the Remuneration Board is independent to council and it's an established authority that they determine the size of the pool of money that comes to this district, and then it's up to, I guess, our boss over here to determine how that money is allocated amongst elected members. So the point for me is some of the submissions clearly identified that we were an additional cost to our district. We weren't worth it, but I just wanted assurance that we, maybe some of my fellow councillors took a slight pay cut by me and Nina being here. Kia ora.
Depends on roles, of course. It has a big part to play in terms of that, but you're right. Thank you for that clarification, Grayson. Don't appear to be any further questions, so thank you, Grayson, for a very comprehensive and clear report. Thank you. Okay, I, as Chair, want to move 3.3, that Council maintains the current representation arrangements, including the Maori Ward for the 2025 local body elections, noting that a binding referendum on retaining Maori wards will be conducted alongside that election. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Young, thank you. Councillor Boyle, you wish to...
I wish to raise a point of order, because this is the second time as chair that you've made this motion of moving the first thing that's on the agenda when it's a highly contentious topic. You did it with the landfill as well. While it might be great for us to vote on this, I really feel like it's not particularly fair to the meeting for the chair to put forward the option in the agenda as their personal preference and look for a seconder immediately. But I mean, that's my thoughts on it. I suppose it's a shit point of order. But, yeah.
I
disagree with that, but it's quite within my rights as chair of a meeting to propose a motion and a recommendation, and I believe as the leader of the table that I should show some leadership occasionally and do exactly that, which is what I am doing by proposing this recommendation. I have a seconder, so the motion is now on the table. Is there anyone? Well, in fact, I'll speak first. Look, I was party to the introduction of Māori Wards in 2021. The establishment of that was a very proud day, in fact, the history of this council, to be part of a unanimous decision around this table to establish Māori Wards. And I have not regretted that decision since it was made. I think we, in fact, led the way in a big sort of direction for many people, because in those days we were one of the early adopters of Māori Wards. And so I believe we have been very proactive. We've listened to our community. We have, and then taken notice and adopted the Māori Ward. While I don't want to get into the politics of such decisions and why we are here today making that, but I just want to reaffirm the value of what Māori Wards have brought to this table. I believe it has been significant. In fact, I've often said that I don't consider them Māori Ward councillors, they're councillors. And they represent, just like me, one vote around the table, but they do bring a perspective and a view that most of us, especially me, don't often have. And I appreciate that. And so today I just want to confirm in a public way that I do support the retention of Māori Wards for the 2025 elections. Deputy Mayor.
So, Mr. Mayor, you say that you don't want to get into the politics of it, and fair enough, but I do. This is a deeply political issue, because a simple definition of politics is that politics is about making agreements between people so that they can live together. And I want to start by acknowledging the present government for trusting elected members to make decisions around representation. The present government has shown total trust in elected members when it comes to determining the number of councillors that we can have. The present government shows total trust when it comes to allowing us to decide whether to have a community board or not, and how many community boards for that matter. The present government allows us to decide on behalf of the people we trust whether we have a ward system or election at large. I therefore have to express my confusion why the present government shows no trust in local representatives when it comes to one issue, and one issue alone, and that's around the Māori Wards. And I have to wonder why that would be the single issue in which they say, we cannot trust you to get it right, this must be subject to a referendum. What is that about? Where is the consistency in that? If it's about saying that the majority should make a decision around Māori Wards, why should there not be a referendum around all those other issues as well? And following that logic, why would we bother to entrust local representatives to make any decision around referendum, around local representation? So to me, this is an appalling situation where we find ourselves singling out one particular issue, which is the Māori Ward, where we have to subject ourselves to a referendum. And to those people who say, look, this is fundamental, let the people decide, let there be a referendum, let the majority make a decision. I could use the phrase the tyranny of the majority and all that that means, but I won't, but I just said it, so I did. But the referendum, if we're going to have that line of logic that there should be a referendum on this issue, then I ask those people to be consistent and say we therefore should have a referendum on all the issues. All or nothing, let's not single out the Māori Ward issue. Mr. Mayor, along with you, I will remember that day in May 2021 when the 11 elected members around the table voted unanimously to introduce a Māori Ward at the 2022 local body elections. I remember the gallery over there was packed, and I well remember the overwhelming endorsement by Māori and non-Māori alike as they submitted in favour of the Māori ward. Fast forward to August 2024, and specifically last Wednesday, and again the message was clear. In fact, it was unanimous. All who presented supported the Māori ward. Public engagement through our social media indicated 75% supporting the Māori ward. To me, that signals healthy support for the May 2021 decision. That support is clearly ongoing, I believe. And as I say, when it comes to the silent majority, if they want a referendum on this, let them be consistent and demand a referendum on everything else as well. For me personally, democracy has changed for the better. It's coming up 2 years now, and I've seen the Māori ward in action, and I've seen them at this table. And I want to take a little quote from last Wednesday. I think it was Ted Moulton who said it. He used the quote that no multicultural society works with fairness and equity without getting it right with the Indigenous people. No multicultural society works with fairness and equity without getting it right with the Indigenous people. In our long-term plan, which we adopted a short time ago, we reaffirmed our 5 community outcomes. Sitting at the top of those was partnership with tangata whenua. It sits at the top on the page, and it sits on the top front of mind when we decided that that's the place that it should have. Māori wards are an enactment of that aspiration. I want to acknowledge, finally, Mr Mayor, I want to acknowledge personally Councillors Nina Horitapara and Councillor Justin Tamihana. They've been strong, they've been clear, they have been challenging, and at times their challenge has been painful, and we've had to listen, and we've had to feel very uncomfortable, and to be absolutely blunt, we have not always agreed, but what a difference they have made to this table. So I rejoice in the decision of the previous council just over 3 years ago. It's proved simply to be the right thing to do, and Kelly stole the phrase I was going to finish with. Tā James Hanare, we've come too far not to go further.
Thank you, Dave. Councillor Boyle.
Given the Deputy Mayor's fabulous speech there, I haven't prepared one anywhere near as good. I haven't prepared any. I'd like to move an amendment to the resolution that stands currently, with the resolution instead, somewhat cutting it in half, with it instead ending halfway through and saying, the Council maintains the current representation arrangements, including the retention of Horowhenua Māori Wards. No, I mean that's a given.
The Council maintains the current representation arrangements, including the retention of Horowhenua Māori Wards. We've only got one ward, by the way. Yeah. Are there any? Is that the only amendment that you're making? All right. Okay. All right. So, Councillor Boyle's moving that the Council maintains the current representation arrangements, including the retention of the Horowhenua Māori Ward. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Tamihana has seconded it, so it's on the table.
Shall I speak to it?
Yes, please.
Fair. So, I mean, this seems like a semantic issue, but this splits out the portion of confirming that we will do a binding referendum, as we've been directed to, and merely affirms that we will retain our Māori ward. It doesn't state that we're going to retain it for the next election. It states that we will retain our Māori ward, as our citizens and iwi partners have directed us to, as we should. I'm certain there'll be subsequent motions that we need to make in terms of that referendum and in terms of how this council will approach that. But I think it would be right for this council to affirm our position on Māori wards and that we wish to retain our Māori ward.
Anyone else wish to speak to that motion? Councillor Tony,
Is there any opportunity we really need to speak to? Is it before we
You'll get to speak to that.
You can speak to the substantive. Yeah. Okay, we will call for a division on this since because of interest. So the motion is as stated. It's disappeared from the screen, but right, the council maintains the current representation arrangements, including the retention of the Horowhenua Māori Ward. So, starting with Deputy Mayor Allen. In favour? Councillor Barker? No. Councillor Boyle? For. Councillor Brannigan?
Against.
Councillor Grimstone?
For.
Councillor Horowhenua?
For.
Councillor Jennings?
Against the amendment.
Councillor Olsen?
Against.
Councillor Proctor?
For.
Councillor Tamihana?
Aye.
Councillor Tukapua?
For.
Myself, I am against the amendment. Councillor Young?
For.
8-4, so the motion is carried. 8-4, 5 against, so the motion is carried. All right. So we now go to the substantive motion. Pardon? So, anyone wish to speak to the substantive motion? Can just clarification. How does that? What happens now with the one we've just done? How does that? Does it become irrelevant now?
That doesn't give people an opportunity to speak to it, though.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Right, so we're back to the substantive motion. Anyone wish to speak to that? Right, the substantive motion is that council maintains...
No, because that's been lost.
No, it hasn't. We haven't put that.
So, Mr.
Sorry, just give us a couple of minutes because of that passing of the motion. The substantive motion now is gone from the table. So we're trying to now maybe think up of another motion that we can put that then people can speak to, because some people haven't had the opportunity to actually say what they want. So,
Mr. Mayor,
yeah.
can I just I'll frame this as a point of order?
Yeah, please do.
My understanding of what has happened is that we voted on the amendment, and so the amendment now becomes a substantive motion. Two people have already spoken to the substantive motion, and so essentially the amended substantive motion is now what is being debated. So we would then re-vote on that, the wording that we've just voted on, once there has been further debate and discussion. So, because all we've voted on at this stage is to adopt the amendment to the original. Yep.
Right. Just getting my head. The amendment then becomes the substantive motion, which we correct. Okay. All right. That's right. Thank you for that clarification, Councillor Jennings. So that motion now becomes the substantive motion. Those that wish to speak to it can now do so. Councillor Jennings.
Oh, look, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'll start by just explaining why I didn't vote for the amendment. My starting proposition is that back in 2021, I came to the table probably thinking at the time, I'm uncomfortable with New Zealand having political and electoral arrangements and rights based on race and ancestry. But I accept that there is a treaty and there is a broad historical context that means that there is a need and that our political arrangements have been, and electoral arrangements have been put into place through Parliament to ensure that Māori do have a voice, and I accept that, and I believe it does enrich our political system. And so we have obviously a Māori electoral roll, and it's absolutely right that people who choose to be on the Māori electoral roll have fair representation. And so for that reason, and based on the strength of the submissions that came to the table in 2021, based on the verbal and oral submissions made, I made the decision to support the establishment of a Māori ward. And I'm still comfortable with that position. And so in terms of both the original resolution and the amended resolution, I'm comfortable with the component that says, let's retain a Māori ward. So, tick. I'm really comfortable with that. The piece that I'm not comfortable about is the reference to the current representation arrangements. And so, councillors would have seen some email correspondence before this meeting where I was asking about a representation review, because my view is that our representation arrangements are out of whack, the numbers don't add up, and that there is a need for us to consider a range of things. And that's not about Māori wards, that's about all of our wards and all of our arrangements. And so, but I acknowledge and accept the advice from the Chief Executive that we can't do a representation review unless we disestablish the Māori ward at this point, and I'm not going to support doing that. So that's my discomfort with the wording that's been put up in terms of both the substantive resolution and also the amended resolution. And so from my perspective, I'm keen to hear the other views around the table, but it was my intention to sit on the fence and essentially abstain, because I do want to support retention of the Māori ward for the 2025 election, but I'm not comfortable supporting current representation arrangements, because, as I say, I believe that there is some unfairness in terms of the current arrangements that I would have liked to have correct. So that's just my position.
Councillor Young.
I just first want to thank Councillors Tamihana and Councillor Tori Depar. Thank you for your korero throughout these, my first 2 years, my first term. You guys have been so invaluable to me, and I'm sorry that the government has put you through this, because for me, you are, as my other colleagues, are so valuable to me, and make me really enjoy this place. You guys have been so important, and I guess the government's just given me an opportunity to thank you guys and say, you guys are awesome. Not only you guys, but having met all Māori ward councillors across the country, I find you guys all amazing, so passionate, and thank you. I mean, gosh, I love this place, and you guys are all part of the reason why I love coming here. Also want to acknowledge, obviously, Councillor Katapu. Thank you for your call 2 years ago. Here I am, getting to hang out for you cool guys. And I'd really like to keep it that way. So, yes, the Māori Wards.
Councillor Barker.
I, along with many others, sincerely believe that this decision should be made by referendum. So to support this motion would be inconsistent with that. So in all good conscience, I won't be endorsing it.
Councillor Proctor.
Thank you, Mayor. Much like Councillor Jennings next to me, I support much of what he said. I agree that our representation arrangements in this district are out of whack. We do need a representation review. Personally, I think there are too many people sitting around the table. But this is not the matter to discuss that. This is a separate issue. In responding to Deputy Mayor Allen, back in 2021, I was a young man frolicking free. Didn't have the worries of Māori wards and representation issues. But back then, I was always sceptical about the balance between iwi representation and Māori representation. In some ways, there's a slight leftover or hangover of scepticism there about how our council is doing, balancing delivering to Māori but also engaging with our iwi as well. So we still have some work to do in that space, there's no doubt about it. However, as Councillor Jennings pointed out, that Māori choose to be on a Māori roll, and they choose that they have the right to representation. And so I'll support this motion. And I'd like to also remind everyone around here and everyone in the room that it was Horowhenua or Major Kemp that laid the foundations and gave the land for this town. He had a vision of a bicultural community across this district. I think that is still a very valid vision to have. And I think making this motion or supporting this motion today is really laying the foundations for future cooperation and fulfilling that bicultural vision that Major Kemp had as well.
Councillor Robson.
Thanks. Just first of all, I want to just acknowledge Councillors Horowhenua and Councillor Tamahana. Their work and their commitment, I suppose, to this role has been sort of paramount in the last, I suppose, coming up 2 years. For me too, I probably would support more of a wider review of all representation. I think it is out of whack, as my fellow councillors have also said. For me, I also support Mike in saying that these sort of decisions should be done through a referendum. So I won't be supporting this.
Councillor Brannigan.
Point of clarity, Mr. Mayor, should this particular amendment fail, we go back to the substantive. That is correct, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. I struggle to support the amendment simply because I see it as semantics, and this is far too important decision to apply semantics to it. And by semantics, I mean if we endorse this amendment, we're still going to referendum under the current law, so it changes nothing. So, but I don't want to vote against the amendment because I want to signal my support for the Māori Wards. And therefore I'm going to support the amendment begrudgingly because I don't like the semantics that's been applied to it. I too, as Councillor Jennings, support what Councillor Jennings did say was part of like a number in the table, part of the original decision in 2021. And nothing I've seen since then tells me we got it wrong. In fact, I think we got it right. And we've seen some real value from the input or the contribution from our Māori Ward partners, our members. With Councillor Allen, Deputy Mayor Allen spoke that we have disagreed at times, and as we should, and that's healthy. And we've seen some great debate by people coming in and out of these chambers and speaking to us about Māori issues. I think the wards have contributed to our democracy in a very positive way. It's challenged our democracy in a very positive way. And I feel in the 3 years we've had them that there's been a momentous change in terms of the view out in our community around Māori Wards. And I don't think going to a referendum is necessarily a fait accompli. I think we can demonstrate between now and any referendum the value that we've seen from our Māori Wards. And I think we should be positive about that because as much as a number of us won't like what's in front of us in terms of having to go down that track, I don't think it's necessarily going to be a negative outcome for us. So for that reason, I'll support the amendment begrudgingly. Totally, I do support the Māori Wards as I've outlined. Would have preferred the original resolution, but we'll support it. Thank you.
Oh, well,
Councillor Tamiana.
no time like the present, eh? Whakanuinga mihi kia koutou. Koutou ka putanga kōrero e pāna ki ngā kaupapa I roto te tūnua tēnei whare. So just acknowledging everyone here today and the kōrero that you're all sharing. It is a significant day and it is a significant decision that we've been asked to decide on here today whether we're willing to do it or not. First, I would like to obviously acknowledge all of you that have attended today and spoken, but I really want to pick up on what Karemi Hana raised, and particularly noting Auntie Lau, Auntie Carol McDonald, who was here submitting in her 86th year, and I want to acknowledge her and all of the many of our whānau that we've lost, that were here to support the establishment of Māori Ward. And I'm mindful that I was sitting in that seat, on that side, in that gallery, when the decision was made. I also want to acknowledge, I can see Councillor Joe Mason in there, that was one of the councillors that unanimously supported the decision to establish Māori Wards, and I think it's important to acknowledge her and that critical decision that changed Māori and within our own landscape. I also want to take the opportunity just to acknowledge ngā mema Māori huri no ki te mote, so all our Māori elected members and all the various councils around the country that are undertaking this process. There's only one council that has chosen not to establish their Māori Ward, and that's Kaipara, and so our thoughts are with Pera and her whānau, and I'm sure there's a pathway ahead for them to look at what they do next. But for all my fellow councillors that have maintained and kept their Māori Wards, congratulations. I also want to acknowledge Te Pai Tāwhiti. Many of you won't know who Te Pai Tāwhiti is, but Te Pai Tāwhiti is a rōpū of Māori elected members that sit within the Horizons Regional District Council region. And so that includes Ruapehu, Manawatūrangi, Teke, Palmerston North City Council, Tararua, Horowhenua District Council, Horizons Regional Council, and I've probably missed a couple of others, and I apologise. But that group have also sent a letter of support to ensure that we maintain our Māori Wards and our presence here in our district. I really want to pick up on some of the points that I read through submissions, and I want to share this, and I'm sorry if I take time, but I don't get to do this very often. But there were some great points in the submissions, many of which we got to read. There were some great points made also by those that attended last Wednesday in our tinana in person and shared their submissions with us. We only received one submission there to speak against the establishment of the Māori Ward, or retaining, and they didn't come to speak. But what I do know is the 513 online submissions we received, 77% of those were in support of retaining Māori wards. Interestingly enough, not one person on the Māori ward said no, and every single person on the general roll that said no was from the general roll. There was no Māori in there that I could find, and I've checked with a couple of fellow councillors. Was there a Māori that didn't believe there was value in Māori wards? And I couldn't find one. So I think the voice of the community is pretty unanimous. It's just we've got a directive to undertake. Some of those main points that supported the retention of the Māori wards is that they felt it reflected the principles of the treaty. They felt it was consistent to support our tangata tiriti, those that aren't Māori, that stood beside Māori to ensure Māori wards are retained and have a voice. They see value in bridging our communities. They believe that we are able to do things that maybe other elected officials can't do in that capacity. We've encouraged a wider participation by Māori people, and we've seen them coming to the polls more than we ever have with the creation of a Māori ward, which we continue to advocate for. It's a clear voice for Māori by Māori, pertinent to the issues that we feel we need to elevate when we need to elevate those matters. Ngā manaakitanga iwi, doesn't matter whether you're Muaupoko or Rauko or who you belong to. When our district is in a crisis, it is our people that respond, and we've proved it through COVID. We've seen it through other events that happen in our district where our people open their doors and their hearts and manaaki everybody within our community. We've got people switching from the general role to the Māori role because they see value in hearing and seeing their voice and their people participating in these critical discussions. And I'll say it again, and I heard it loud at the local conference recently, Māori ain't going anywhere. Councils and councillors change. MPs and government change. Hapu, Māori, marae, pā will remain, and they will be steadfast. We will continue to support the need for Māori wards going forward. The interesting thing around the against advice was it was racist, it's divisive, undemocratic, we're unelected officials, it's an unnecessary cost on our ratepayers, there's no value from our appointment, poor attendance, apparently we're poor attendees, Councillor Nina. Multicultural, there's issues here of international where they believe we're not in South Africa and I'm not living in Europe. Well, no, you're not, because you're living in Aotearoa. And in Aotearoa, we have a document called Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Now, if you had one of those in South Africa, I'm sure you'd probably still live there. But you don't. We do. And so we will continue to advocate for the rights and the principles that Te Tiriti brings to us as a Māori people and to our nation collectively. Misinformation. I think I got over 160 emails perhaps from Hobson Pledge asking me not to vote, wanting me to disestablish Māori wards today, with a whole lot of misinformation that goes with that abundance of emails. Race-based is loaded. Statistics. I don't really understand that. Race-based. There's Māori in this country that are represented in the treaty, and everybody else in this country is represented by the Crown. There's only two partners in this relationship. So if you've got an issue with how the treaty's treated, then talk to the Crown. But iwi know exactly how they see the treaty and how they work within the treaty. The other words that really captured me were fear, bullying, underhanded behaviour, corruption, poor knowledge, no understanding, free rides, handouts. These were the people that want you to establish your Māori ward because apparently that's what I'm here for. So I absolutely refute all those points, just to be clear. I'm clear why I'm here. I was elected by the people that chose to have me here alongside Councillor Nina Horitapa. If you didn't want us here, you wouldn't have voted. But we are here. We don't intend on going anywhere either. We thank each and every one of you that have lent into this. We thank those that don't agree. Councillor Barker's always been open and honest about his position, and he has a right to that position, but I always challenge him back by saying, so if it's democratic, then why is it only Māori? And he's yet to answer me that, because he knows himself the process doesn't reflect fairness and equality across our systems, and that's the work we have to carry on and get right. The Crown have already acknowledged they've done wrong against Māori in this country. Get over it. Whatever process Crown have to engage iwi on, Māori on, that's a process for them to undertake. But the grievances are real. The Crown acknowledge those grievances, and those processes will continue to happen whether we like it or not. But in this district, we actually have to learn to just get on with it. Regardless, in the words of the kingi, ko tahitanga, we don't always see it, we don't always live it, but we know how to express it when we need to. And we'll continue to do that on your behalf too. So that's all I was going to say. I could say much more, but I think we've had enough time. I think people probably just want to see the vote. So I support all my councillors today in making a decision that they can live with and they can stand by. And I look forward to the outcome of that result. And I thank each and every one of you that have taken your time to be here today, that have expressed your opinions through your submissions online and any other forum, especially those that reach out personally in emails, because I can't remember all your names, but we do get private emails as well that we do respond to. And thank each and every person for their opinion and their honesty and their transparency. And I hope that we continue to do a good job representing you, our iwi, our Māori community, and the benefits that go across our entire district. Tēnā koe te katoa.
Kia ora tātou. I asked the democracy team to circulate a piece of paper which should be before you. I'm going to come from a different angle, and that is to share with you all my experience. I stood in 2013 and there was no Māori ward. I'm on the Māori roll. I have been since I was eligible to vote. If there was a Māori ward back then, I would have stood in it. I wouldn't have stood in the general seats, but that was all that was available. As you can see, I came fourth out of 17 candidates going in Levin, and there's only 5 seats. Now, that didn't come by luck. If you turn over the page, look where my fellow Māori candidate otherwise ended up. 17th. And that would have been me. The writing was on the wall when I started to campaign. I experienced a little bit of racism on the trail. I was told that if I had a different name, I might get in. By more than one person. I knocked on many doors. And I realised I'm going to have to stand for mayoralty, otherwise no one's going to take me seriously. So there you see my name in the mayoral race too. I came back and filed another application. It meant that I got more exposure, it raised my profile, and I had a fighting chance. And I've been here 4 terms now, but it ain't easy. You can read a submitter in here that talks about how hard, like names me. She works her butt off. I wonder why. Unfortunately, we have to work harder than everybody else. I mean, that's my reality. But I've accepted the challenge. And I know I'm leaving, but those Māori ward seats are extremely valuable. They're not token. They mean something, and it encourages Māori to want to engage and participate in local politics. You look down that foyer as you walk in, all those pictures there of council since 1998. Tell me, other than that most recent photo, otherwise, how many Māori do you see on those walls? How many Māoris do you see in that room over there with all our mayors? Over 100 years of local government. Not one female mayor, but hey, that's another story. I am proud of the unanimous decision the previous council made in 2021 to establish a Māori ward. And regardless of the haters, we did engage with our community at the time. We heard submitters and a democratic decision was made. I strongly oppose the ACT Party's rhetoric and the coalition government's enforcing a referendum. I 100% support the retention of Māori wards, full stop. I'll just leave you with some statistics because, you know, I like facts just as much as anybody else. According to the 2023 census data, the population of Horowhenua is 36,693. And of that, 10,149 are Māori. That's 27.7%. That's higher than the national average. Of that 10,000, 5,390 are on the Māori roll. You know, and I hope, now I'm talking to my fellow Māori, some more of you would get on the Māori roll, switch. I advocate for that. But in closing, my previous council, I built relationships with those people. And I hope that I've done a similar thing in the current council too, but trust and confidence, you hear that a lot. Well, I hope you've seen my efforts and would trust my advice and support the retention of Māori wards. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora, Parihara.
Councillor
Horowhenua.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Now I'm just editing everything because I'm trying not to repeat what has been said. I too support the amendment to retain Māori wards. I acknowledge the momentous decision in 2021 to which I spoke at the time. To Councillor Tukapua and her aroha that she has provided to those of us on this council, providing a safe way until we found our way. So for that, parihira, tēnā koe. Thank you to all those that shared your thoughts with us, both for and against. Councillor Tamihana spoke about the many concerns that were raised with us. You know, someone speaking on behalf of their Māori friend wanting to tell us that their Māori friend didn't want us there, but their Māori friend couldn't put in a submission. So, I'm like, well, you know, they had the opportunity. While I agree with Councillor Barker around the right to hold a referendum, I look at the numbers and already know it's inequitable. The 36,000 that are on our general roll versus the 5,000 that are on our Māori roll, we're in a hiding to nothing. We're never going to win. So I find it hard to see the equity there. Just to let our community know, racism does exist. Prior to winning a seat on the Māori ward, I have stood for the Live-In ward, and it got to the point where I didn't want to attend because of the comments that were made. But you know, you got to suck it up and you got to keep fighting because we have to for our mokopuna. I know I'm a kaitiaki in the seat, rightly or wrongly for some people, but I hope today's decision ensures the seat is available for future Māori to take. We're here to make mokopuna decisions, and hopefully this will make our mokopuna proud.
No, sorry, I've stolen Councillor Young's mic. First of all,
ngā mihi to everyone who has submitted today and came and spoke to us yesterday. I appreciate the range of views that have been conveyed to us. It does show the importance of coming and engaging face to face, rather than some of the faceless spam emails we've received from some quarters. But I'll keep it brief because this doesn't need long. When I was a boy, I took an oath with something like, on my honour, I promise to do my best, to do my duty to God and to the Queen and the country, and to help other people and to keep the Scout law. When I took another oath 18 months, 2 years ago, it was a very similar promise to do my duty to the region for all people. And we're sitting here talking about disestablishing or not Māori wards. They take the same oath to represent the people, to do their duty for the whole region. I wasn't here on the previous council. I can't talk to what decisions were made prior to me taking the seat at this table. I mihi to Councillor Tukapai because your 12 years of service has led the way and shines the light for those that follow. And that can be construed in one way to argue the benefit that you can do so in a general ward rather than a Māori ward. But I take the other view that your service has lighted the way for our Māori ward representatives and those kaitiaki that follow, but it also lights the way for any person who decides to stand for council and to serve council. And I mihi to you for your service and acknowledge you today. So for me, mahi tahi tātou, kaha aki tātou. Together we are greater, and I will support the motion.
Councillor Boyle, do you wish to have a right of reply?
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to get one. Clearly I want to support this motion. It's the right thing to do. I don't think we need to waste anyone's time going on a big spiel. You've heard beautiful words from everyone else. Let's just get some stuff done.
Thank you to all those that have spoken so eloquently. While I didn't want to make this political, it obviously has become political, and I was hoping that we would be unified, and I think we are. We are unified in terms of our support for the retention of Māori wards. And I will foreshadow that because of my original motion, I will be putting a motion after this has gone through that we do the second part of the original motion is acknowledged that we have to have a referendum at the 2025 elections, just so that everybody can also have their say on whether that should happen or not. So, and that is why I voted against the amendment, but I will support this now. Because I don't want to be seen as therefore not supporting Māori wards would place me against all my principles and values that I have. It's interesting, I find, the commentary around, the racist commentary and things like that. These days at my age, I get more commentary around my age and the way I look being a pale, stale male than I do about any other time in my life, which I find quite ironic in this day and age. But, that's the world we live in these days, unfortunately. That anything like that is taken, it needs commentary on. I don't believe anything commentary on. We're Kiwis, we're New Zealanders, and we should be acting together and be unified in terms of what we do. So, with that, I will now again have a division on this amendment. and we will start at the bottom, just ensuring that everybody is now aware of what the motion is. Yeah, we'll just get it up for you. The council maintains the current representation arrangements, including the retention of the Horowhenua Māori Ward. Just been advised that you are well aware that this is the decision. All right. All right, Councillor Young. Aye. Myself, yes, for. Councillor Tukapua.
For.
Councillor Tamihana.
Aye.
Councillor Proctor.
Yes.
Councillor Olsen.
Against.
Councillor Jennings.
Yes.
Councillor Horowhenua.
Aye.
Councillor Grimstone.
Aye.
Councillor Brannigan.
For.
Councillor Boyle.
Aye.
Councillor Barker.
No.
And Deputy Mayor Allen.
Aye.
Passed 11-2. Thank you. Councillor Boyle.
Can I move the second motion? Do you want to move your foreshadowed one instead? You've foreshadowed it. I should probably let you have it. But it might save me doing an amendment to your one.
You've got the microphone, Councillor Boyle, but please, can we just keep a bit of decorum about it? It's not a laughing matter at all.
So I would like to move that subsequent motion that in affirming Māori wards, council notes a binding referendum on retaining Māori wards will be conducted alongside the election, and further notes our objection to this.
So the only thing I would we can include the 2025 election in that elections.
Yep. Alongside the 2025 election. Yep.
Is there a seconder for that?
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Allen, so the motion's on the table. I'm going to move an amendment. So then my amendment is that in affirming Māori Wards, council notes a binding referendum on retaining Māori Wards will be conducted alongside the 2025 election, full stop. Seconded by Councillor Brannigan. Deputy Mayor Allen.
So the reason I've seconded Councillor Boyle's recommendation lies at the heart of some words that I shared before, which is why should we support a binding referendum on one issue only, to do with wards, and it's around the Māori wards only, and to me that's inconsistent, unfair, and I won't use the last word.
And look, I need to state my position in terms of that. I believe there have been many issues while I've sat around this table where we've been told by a government that we have to either impose or adopt or do whatever. In a position like mine, I believe that I cannot knowingly go against the wishes of a government that are imposing a condition of that. My values might be completely different, and I might not agree with necessarily having a referendum, but the fact that they are making us do a referendum, I will not knowingly go against that or object to it. I will follow the law. So you've spoken.
Understanding orders, I wish to make a personal clarification, whatever the word is, the personal thingy, which you can do. Point of clarification,
yes,
which is that in supporting this, Mr. Mayor, I in no way said I would break the law. I have no intention of doing so. The word the key words are about objecting to it, and that's about an ethical stance. It's not about me saying that I'll break the law, so I invite you to reconsider your position with respect.
My position has been reconsidered, and I stand by what I've said. Unfortunately, natural justice for me overrules anything like that. And in some of the positions that I hold in this community, I must uphold that at all times, and that is my position. So I'll leave it at that. Councillor Boyle.
I won't be supporting this amendment, as I much preferred the original motion, which communicates the views of our community better. I feel our community does strongly object to this, and I think we should as well. It has already been noted that this doesn't infer that we're going to break the law. This merely states we object to this, as we have to a number of other things that the government has done previously, as we have to 3 waters, as we have to the council, to the government not doing O2NL fast enough, as you have publicly done many times before to a number of other issues. I think it would be foolish of us not to communicate that we object to this being a referendum issue. It shouldn't be.
Mr. Tamia.
Yeah, I have to concur with both Deputy Mayor Allen and Councillor Boyle. I don't think we're instructing anyone to break the law here, but maybe we need to take some advice from our CE to ask, is there any risk? And I know other councillors have sought similar advice from their CEOs. And so what is the risk to those additional words being included in this motion?
Through your worship, the way in which the motion is written was to be able to be very clear, noting that there is the requirement of a referendum, and as has been articulated by councillors around the table, it wasn't to signal that we wouldn't be following through on the referendum, because as I've previously advised council, that is a legislative responsibility that we will have to carry out. In terms of the question of risk, the only risk that I could highlight for us as an organisation is around one of reputation in terms of how the government of the day perceives us as a council and objecting to something. But as has been articulated, we've done that on other matters. I think it is it's the motion in front of you is almost a conscience decision on where you align with wanting to object to the government.
And may I ask a subsequent question? Would the amendment that's been sought by Councillor Boyle and Councillor Deputy Mayor Allen, would that be consistent with what this council submitted on to the select committee around Māori ward retention?
Correct. The intent of the resolution is consistent with our submission to government, where we objected to the idea of Māori wards being treated differently to other wards.
Thank you very much. So I'm aligned with my other councillors and would consider that we ask our chair to amend the motion.
Would you permit another question to the scene?
A question, yes.
Would the original substantive motion be in line with the LGNZ remit we supported just last council meeting, saying that we didn't think this should be a referendum item?
I think the message is consistent with council's position to date. The only difference I would note is that this decision is now in the context of the decision you've just made, which is to reaffirm Māori wards.
Any further commentary? Councillor Barker.
I don't actually object to hearing what the people want, and if democracy is to be compared in some way with tyranny, then I actually much prefer the tyranny of the majority.
Mr. Proctor.
I'd like to move on, but I'm going to make a quick comment. I support what the Mayor has stated so far. I believe good governance, good leadership is providing quite defined statements or motions that then officers can go and work to, rather than providing yeah, nah sort of statements that provide wiggle room and messy the future actions anyway.
Councillor Jennings.
Just echo the sentiments of Councillor Proctor. We've had a couple of opportunities through the submission process and then through the LGNZ remit to articulate our position. This resolution, while it might send a signal or make some people feel better in terms of expressing it, it kind of is a bit pointless in terms of what does it achieve in terms of a decision of this council. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's needed.
Okay, so just reminding everyone that this is the amendment, and that the amendment reads that in affirming Māori wards, Council notes a binding referendum on retaining Māori wards will be conducted alongside the 2025 election. It's been moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Brannigan.
And for clarity, much as last time, we are merely voting on if we wish this to be the substantive motion.
Yes, that's correct.
If it was lost, we would return to the previous motion.
Yes, that's correct. Everyone understand that? Cool. All right, let's start. I'll start in the middle this time. Councillor Jennings.
For.
Councillor Horowhenua.
Against.
Councillor Grimstone.
For.
Councillor Brannigan.
For.
Councillor Boyle.
Against.
Councillor Barker. For. Deputy Mayor Allen.
Against.
Councillor Young. For. Myself, I am for. Councillor Tukapua.
Against.
Councillor Tamihana.
Got all day against.
Councillor Proctor.
For.
Councillor Olsen.
For.
8-4.
So that amendment is now, the substantive motion's been carried 8-4. Eight to 5, sorry. Right. So, the substantive motion, I don't think there's any further debate or discussion needed to have. I'll now put that motion, and this time, Councillor Olsen.
For.
Sorry, just giving. Okay, Councillor Olsen.
For.
Councillor Proctor.
For.
Councillor Tamihana.
Go.
Sorry, that was against. Thank you. Councillor Tukapua.
Against.
Myself voting for. Councillor Young.
For.
Deputy Mayor Allen.
Against.
Councillor Barker. For. Councillor Boyle.
Against.
Councillor Brannigan.
For.
Councillor Grimstone.
For.
Councillor Horowhenua.
Against.
And Councillor Jennings.
For.
So, yeah. So the motion is carried 8-5. Thank you all. All right, that now brings us to the end of that topic. Councillor Jennings.
Mr. Mayor, I was hoping to move a motion to secure in Council's forward work program representation review earlier than 2026. Earlier than 2027. So I thought it was important to send a signal to the next council that it schedule that representation review early on in the term. So I move, and this is subject to whether there's whether this is fits appropriately with the agenda paper, and I'll happily take the Chief Executive's advice on that before I put it.
Look, in the absence of knowing the form and function of that motion, Councillor Jennings. My advice is that if you're going to put any motion on the table, it shouldn't be anything more than requesting the Chief Executive bring a report back on options, because you don't actually have fulsome advice on those options to determine whether you would bring something forward.
Yeah, okay. Then I'll move that the Chief Executive provides a report with options by the end of March 2025.
Options of what?
For a representation review. I'll second it. Councillor Brown.
Can we have a bit of rationale around this? Just give us some rationale.
Yeah, so thank you, Councillor Brannigan. So at the moment, the requirement is that the representation review be completed by 2027 as per the Electoral Act. We will inevitably have a result from the referendum, given the earlier decisions Council made today, immediately at the end of 2025, and it would be my view that it would be appropriate for Council to, the next Council, to look at those representation arrangements, whatever the outcome of the referendum, but more in terms of the total number of councillors, the ward structure, and signal very early on in the term what its proposed arrangements going forward might look like. And so all I'm seeking to do is to essentially bring that forward into the work program to essentially reflect on and take the result of the referendum and then strike while the iron's hot.
Look, reluctantly, I speak in opposition to this. I absolutely get the spirit in which it's offered, and I absolutely get the point that Councillor Jennings has made about the stats just being all over the place and needing revisiting. But I front of mind as we've gone from 10 to 12 priorities now in terms of what we are wanting to focus the organisation on, and even though you could argue this is in terms of things maybe not a huge piece of work, it is another piece of work, and there has to be compelling reasons for this council to undertake or allocate even more work to the organisation, given the 12 priorities and given the fact that a new council will have to make that decision anyway. It will be their business. They'll know when they come in, they know the stats, they'll be given that information, and then it is their decision to make. So front of mind for me is let's be quite ruthless in terms of what workload we're giving the organisation. Let's let it lie and let the new council deal to the issue.
Councillor Proctor.
I support Councillor Jennings on this initiative, and just in response to Deputy Mayor Allen, I think he's already answered his questions and his concerns in his speech earlier on, is that the government has interfered with our processes here, our ability to make decisions. It's changed timelines, it's changed options. I think we need to have the freedom and the right to be able to explore this as a council going forward. And I'm not afraid of a little bit of more work around picking up some of the options the CE will possibly present us.
Councillor Tamihan.
Sorry, I don't agree with the previous speaker. I certainly support what Deputy Mayor Allen's raised. This is not a fast track bill that we're talking about here. This is a process that's embedded in our organisation, and it's a legal process that we follow. I'm not interested in fast tracking and putting more expectations on on Monique and our team to deliver a new piece of work, and I think we should just be living and working within the means that we've set our direction and our course for as a council that we agreed on.
Councillor Bowman.
I'll be speaking against the motion. I think it'll be a decision for the subsequent council. I don't think we need to provide direction to them through a resolution. I have full faith that our CEO will advise them of their obligations and the state of play when they are inducted at the end of next year.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Jennings, you want to reply?
Yeah, just brief right reply. Yeah, look, I think that having reflected on the comments of Deputy Mayor Allen and Councillor Tamihana, I think there's a misunderstanding of what I'm proposing, which is simply to schedule this piece of work earlier in the next term, and the report that's being requested from the Chief Executive simply provides a report to allow Council to make that decision to program this piece of work, allocate budget, prioritise it, signal to the incoming Council about when this would occur, because it will, as the Deputy Mayor Allen pointed out, require budget. And so by having this come to the table next year to allow a decision around when should a representation review be conducted, and to signal that we think it's important for the next council to schedule earlier in its term, I think is an important one. So I would urge you to vote in favour, to at least be able to receive a report to make a decision about whether or not you think it should be programmed earlier than it might otherwise.
All right, I don't think we'll have a division on this. We'll just have a show of hands, please.
Can I just ask one question for clarification? So given the timing of that and the options you may present back, when would it actually be conducted? Is it 2026?
Through your worship, like arguably that's a decision for council, but it wouldn't, if we were to do it wouldn't come into effect until the 2028 election. But it would just be that the work is done in advance.
All right. Everyone understand what they're voting on? So those that are in favour of the motion that the Chief Executive brings a report back to Council with options related to a representation review by March 2025. Can I just show those in favour, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can only see 5. And those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the motion is lost. So someone must have abstained. Councillor Tukupa. Right, thank you. All right, so the motion is lost. Thank you. All right, so...
Bernie, can I just say something? Look, I think it was a real anticlimax to the decision that was made just previously. Many of our whānau have left this building and didn't even get acknowledged about the decision that was just made. And I just feel like the waters were muddied. It was a significant decision. Our people have left the building without even being acknowledged and not even declared that the motion was won in a way that you could celebrate it. So I want it noted that I feel really sad for all my whānau I've just seen walk out this door that actually probably just experienced the most anticlimactic process that you could have around such an auspicious occasion. Kia ora.
Yeah, look, I do want to acknowledge those that are here. Well, I'm sorry, they left without, I've got to follow process. Well, we did a lot of things that we probably could have easily have made the decision a lot more unified. But anyway, it is what it is. But I do want to thank everyone that's contributed and taken part in this decision. It is another milestone in our history, and so will be recognised accordingly. And in saying that, I think we deserve a 10-minute break, yes.
The only thing I wanted to ask is, will the submissions that are received be released to public? Because I've got people that want to know what the submissions are.
Submissions are on your agenda.
No, to the public, not to us.
Yeah, well, that agenda's public. Yeah.
Just through your worship, just noting that where information is private, we've had to withhold it publicly. So that's like addresses and contact numbers.
What are you doing on that side of the table? So, moving now back to our agenda, our first item is 6.1, the Mayoral report. So, could I just move 2.1, 2.2, that the report be received, seconded by Deputy Mayoral. All those in favour? As part of the Mayoral report, you will see the item regarding Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, and I've asked Mark and Fraser and Joe to present to you a bit more information about Mayor's Task Force for Jobs. We've just finished our year, and so it's a good time to talk a little bit about that, show you a short video as well about one of the participants. Thanks. Who's leading? Fraser? You're going to do that straight away, eh? Hello, Mark.
MTFJ program delivers to the Horowhenua many, many benefits. We've been extremely fortunate to be able to connect Council, MSD, other government agencies to this specific, if you like, piece of work that has enabled us to get a lot closer to our community, but also our community has benefited immensely from having these young people actually be able to get into worthwhile employment and give them opportunities that they would not have normally had.
Tammy has helped me with all my stuff, so like sorting me out for jobs and interviews and telling me all the questions and giving me all my PPE gear when I got the job and just helping me out big time. I love my job, pretty cool. Get to do all the different areas. So we do here at Maple Street, do all the gardens and all the maintaining, all the lawns and all that's pretty cool. Then we do in the surf club as well, out by the Wherry, doing all that. And then there was a group of us, we went down to Wellington for the World Cup, doing the covers for the women's.
I previously heard about the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs from Evan Hicks, who's our operations manager here at Horowhenua. Evan's had a great relationship working with the council for many years, but he's also really dedicated, and so are the team, to the community. I think the key for us was it was all about how we can provide opportunities for our locals, and we noticed basically previously we had a lot of struggles with the recruitment space, and a lot of our locals were actually moving outside of live-in, which was making it a bit of a job scarce, but also not providing us enough opportunity to bring in through our youth. So yeah, we're really excited.
Working outside's real good. Get the sunlight. With my last jobs, I was working inside, so it's just a whole lot more enjoyable being outdoors. Get to see a lot of different areas that I've never really seen before.
A lot of these young people didn't know where to go, how to be connected to employers, what they needed, and so I think the wraparound services that Mayor's Task Force for Jobs can, in terms of driver's licences, gear, you know, some of the equipment they need, but also directing them in terms of some interview skills or preparing their CVs is a lot wider than just connecting them with employers.
It means a lot to me because before I was always like real down about myself and doing this and doing that wrong, and now I'm just focused and in the zone, just giving me a truck, just this garden needs doing, so I'll go do it. It's a whole lot different. I'm most thankful for them, for Tammy and that, for helping me, support me through all this, getting this job, and all that just means a lot.
Pretty cool story. Mind you, if I'd known I was featuring as much as that, I would have said the other one, Mark. Sorry. Joe.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou. Ko Joe Humphreys Tukuingua. I am the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs lead.
Kia ora koutou. Fraser Dash, Mayor's Task Force for Jobs coordinator.
So firstly, for those who are unaware of what the MTFJ program is, we thought we'd provide a high-level overview about what we do, what the program is, in addition to what Mayor Burney has within his report, and then report a little bit on our achievements for the year. So Horowhenua District Council is a member of the National MTFJ program, MTFJ receives funding from the Ministry of Social Development, who are important partners that we work really closely with, given obviously our shared desired outcomes. Essentially, we work in the community to support young people aged 16 to 24 to become engaged in employment, and that can include support, lots of wraparound support around helping with education, training, other unique positive outcomes for these young people. So we have a lot of flexibility in how we support them into that employment. We meet them where they are at, and we work together to remove those barriers to employment and give them that first foot in the door, that first job in a lot of cases. So looking back at the last year, we've achieved quite a few things. One really significant milestone and accomplishment for us was the creation of the Job Hub at Te Takiritanga o Horowhenua. So for those of you who haven't visited, the Job Hub is between the youth space and the open meeting room at in the library. So this was in the pipeline for some time before both Fraser and I started, and seeing it come to fruition towards the end of last year has been a really, really great outcome towards the work that we do. It's fantastic to have that physical space for us to work from. So when we're down there, we make appointments and we meet our clients down there. We also staff the Job Hub so that we're there at set times, and we get people just wandering in to come and talk to us and find out how we can help them. Being in the heart of Te Takiritanga o Horowhenua, one of our key community spaces, puts us in a prime position to engage. It's a great neutral public space to meet young people who might be a little bit nervous or uncertain about meeting us and what they're going to get into. It's been purposely designed to assist with the development and growth of the work that we're doing. There's a wee standalone silent pod, which is designed for people who want to have private meetings, job interviews, upload an online video interview, or to simply study for an upcoming training or do interview prep. And I know that when Evan from Green by Nature was interviewing for his latest round of recruitment, he held his interviews in there. We've also got a suite of computers along the side which can be used by job seekers to look for work, to write CVs, to write cover letters, and we've actually got the homepage loaded up with a whole lot of job seeking websites so that people can go straight in there and start their job seeking journey. Through our agreement with MTFJ and Ministry of Social Development, we have a set number of outcomes or targets that we need to meet each year. Last year that was 28, and by the end of the year we had successfully placed 52 young people into various employment roles in the community. So we're pretty proud of that. Of those placements, we've had some pretty special stories, and some of those are reflected on the screen at the moment. So we thought we'd just talk to a couple of those extra special stories. Gosh, there's a lot there. So the young chap holding up his L plate, that's a really neat story for us. So he came to us, he was 16, he'd just left school, didn't really know what he wanted to do, but wanted work. He lives in Shannon and didn't drive, and so access to work was pretty difficult. So one of the first things we did was got him into one of a learner licence day that we held in Shannon, a standalone day, and as you can see at the end of that day he got his learner's licence. Just a couple of weeks later we were approached by a local employer who had a job going, a full-time job, and asked if we could please forward some CVs of suitable people. So he was one of the ones that we put forward, and he was selected for the full-time job. Can I say what he's doing? Can I say what his job is? Yeah. Yeah. So he's now working as a bin runner for one of our local We Live In companies. We were able to provide him with some warm gear as well for those really cold early starts on the winter mornings. And he came in to visit us a couple of weeks after he'd started in the job, and he was just standing so tall. He was so proud of himself that he had got this full-time job and he was contributing to the household. So that's one really special story. Fraser's going to share another one.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about our two boys top left as we're looking at the screen, who are employed by the Horowhenua District Council currently, which I think highlights kind of the benefit of MTFJ sitting within council We met both these boys at the start of the year, one with a young baby, newborn I think, and the other who had run through a few different short-term jobs and wasn't too sure where he wanted to go. We had talked with the team installing the water meters about this position coming up and worked with HR to find out what they were looking for. When the job was advertised, helped these boys apply, and they were successful in the role. We were able to kind of support them to get started and work out a few things at the start to make sure that the transition was smooth, and I think that just shows that we're able to work within council to kind of create good outcomes. Thank you.
So in addition to obviously supporting our young people into employment, a really large part of our role is to develop and maintain relationships with local businesses, and that's where we get the phone calls saying, hey, we've got this job, do you have anyone to fill it? So that's something we've put a lot of effort into this year as well. In addition to making those placements into employment, we have until recently arranged a number of training and development opportunities for our clients. So we've run courses in things such as coffee and food handling, traffic management, chainsaw safety, forklift safety. We've done a Plan Your Future employment skills course and a beauty taster as well. So something for everyone. Unfortunately, this financial year our budget has been reduced, so we don't have the scope to provide those externally provided programs anymore. So we've kind of pivoted and we've amended our approach, and we're trialling running our own program that Fraser and I, using our own skill set, have designed and planned, and we're teaching a bunch of 16 to 24-year-olds at the moment, teaching them employability skills and work-ready skills. This is running as a pilot program, and we'll be evaluating it over coming weeks and making decisions about how we're going to offer that course going forward. We have, as you saw on the slide, traditionally had quite a bit of focus on driver licensing. However, looking ahead with changes to our funding contract and direction from our MTFJ national body, this is not going to be our key focus this year, noting that MSD still play a role in this in the community. So we're excited about the year ahead. We have a full-on program, planning and teaching our courses, continuing to meet clients, meet employers and community stakeholders to achieve success, and we'll be facilitating the next Future Pathways Expo, which is coming up in October. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for any? Yeah, look, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Fraser and Mark. Really appreciate the work you're doing and making me look good. And I don't think people really understand in the community the contribution that, in fact, this program is making to our community. It's been estimated that for every dollar invested in this program nationwide, $5.60 gets returned. It would be one of the most successful community employment programs that has been ever initiated. It is good to see, though, that this government have confirmed that they will maintain funding for this year and next year. While it has reduced a little bit over time, there are other avenues that we are looking at. I do sit on the governance group for Mayor's Task Force with about 3 other mayors around the country. So, you know, we are trying to change the strategic direction a little bit so that we don't solely rely on the MSD funding. But it's a great partnership. I just want to acknowledge the work that you guys do, because I know it wouldn't happen without it, but also the support that the organisation gives the program as well. But also acknowledge the employers that have now come on board with this and are pretty supportive of it. We know that times are tough and there's some pretty sad stories out there about people not being able to find jobs, but to be actively supporting a program like this is fantastic. So I also want to acknowledge Tammy. She's probably around somewhere, is she? Yeah. So many of you will, when we first got offered this money some years ago, Tammy was a tutor at HLC, and I went up to HLC to get some help to initiate the program. Tammy took over
role of supporting the program. When we were advised that they wanted it in-house rather than sort of being run by an outside agency, we managed to snaffle Tammy into this organisation, and she's been a rock star in terms of developing the program a lot better. So good, the national organisation pinched her, and she now works in Wellington for MTFJ itself, is aligned to Local Government New Zealand. So yeah, look, it's if you've got know of anybody or whānau or any kids that are a bit lost, MTFJ is definitely the program that you should direct them to. Thank you, team. Appreciate everything that you do. All right. We're now going to 6.2, the Chair's report for the Te Awaho Foxton Community Board. And John, do you want to join us at the table? And I'll just move 2.1, that the report be received, seconded by Councillor Olsen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So, John, anything you wish to highlight in your report?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. The two important things really are the Foxton Futures progress is moving forward very satisfactorily. The two council officers working with us are working very well. We look forward to getting that together and getting a plan on a page in the near future, which is very good. The Manawatu River Festival, we've a separate organisation has been formed to run that now. It has the support of Horizons Regional Council, Palmerston North City Council, and we're talking with HDC about their involvement as well. That's going very well, and we'll be inviting all the stakeholders from the Manawatu River Leaders Accord into Foxton to do that. The date has been put off to the 25th of January because that fits in very well with what can happen with the Waka Armour, which will be featured during the festival, and a couple of other things besides. We have an Army Charter Parade on the 12th of September. They have freedom of Foxton, of course, as you know, and they'll be marching through the street with bayonets drawn. And you'll be there as well, I hope. Basically, that's really the important things that are happening in the immediate future.
Thanks, John. Yes, I'm looking forward to the Charter Parade. I did that a couple of years ago. It's a great occasion. Just any other questions that members might have for John or comments? All good. Appreciate your time, John. Right, moving now to 7.2, which is the updates to standing orders, terms of reference and council appointments. Pretty much a procedural recommendation here, but just moving 3.1, 3.2, the report be received, seconded by Councillor Tupapua. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Grayson, welcome back. You're introducing this for us. Thank you.
The report before you is a very procedural report. It just tidies up a number of governance documents, noting some changes that have happened recently. One being the change to quorum requirements. The temporary measure that came in as part of the COVID response, allowing people to attend remotely, is now permanently in place. So if you attend remotely, you can now be considered part of the quorum. There's an update to the council membership, noting the appointment of 3 councillors to the Horowhenua Lake Domain Board. And the third item is slipping my mind. The changes to the Community Funding and Recognition Committee that you passed last meeting. At that time we noted that a paper would come to update the terms of reference, and that's what this paper does. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Grayson. Would someone like to move 3.3, 3.4 and 3.5 block. Thank you, Councillor Grimstone, seconded by Councillor Brannigan. Anyone wish to speak to that? Councillor Tamihana.
Kia ora everyone. Thank you, Grayson. I don't have any issue in supporting the report, but I do have an issue around 3.5. So I want to note my objection to those appointments, particularly of Councillors Proctor and Councillor Horowhenua. I'm not sure where and how we made that decision, and I'm quite unsure. But what I do know is that I could not sit here and support their being appointed when they need to remain impartial around decisions that are made by this council around the lake, and they are declared owners and have other interests in the lake, and so I just would like it recorded that I can't support those two appointments. And I have already spoken to Councillor Horowhenua just to share with her prior to this that I was going to raise the matter.
So those appointments are made by me to that board, but they're made by council. Yeah, so it was adopted at the beginning of the term. So it's just that the Lake Domain Board has been inoperative pretty much because of no iwi members attached to it, and it needed the Minister of Conservation to actually make those appointments, which has been done. So we are reinvigorating or refreshing the Lake Domain Board. But these appointments were made at the start of the term in 2022. You did, yeah. Yep.
That I could not stand by the decision in the appointment and how the conflicts will be managed, given they've quite clearly articulated that they're owners, have other vested interests in the lake, and they're expected to sit here and make an impartial decision with a ministerial appointment. No thanks.
I'll just let the Chief Executive respond.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. So just to clarify, that was a council decision and appointment of those councillors to the Lake Domain Board. Councillor Tamihana is right; he raised concerns at the time, but council still proceeded with those appointments. The reason that this has been raised in the report because Minister Potaka has recently used his powers and made some additional appointments to the board, allowing the board to have a quorum for the very first time in a long time.
Councillor Proctor.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's important that I defend my integrity on this matter. I'm usually pretty good at declaring my conflicts and pretty open and transparent about the various roles I have in the community. The owners of the lake are the trustees. I am not a trustee. Beneficiaries of the lake are those that descend from 81 original landowners. I am not one of those beneficiaries. Currently, my father holds all the shares for our whānau until he passes away. Then I will retain his shares. Actually, I like having a father rather than having the shares, but I don't believe there's any conflict at this stage with my role now. I'm not a trustee. The MTA has no role on the board or management of the lake, so I don't see any potential conflict.
All right, so noted. But okay, so no doubt Ashley's taken notes of the comments and Councillor Tamihana's objection to that appointment, but I will put the motions 3.3, 3.4 and 3.5. All those in favour? Against?
Against 3.5.
Thank you, so noted. All right, now 7.3, the adoption of a meeting schedule for 2025, and Alice is going to come to the table. As she does so, can we move 3.1, 3.2 in the report we received? Seconded by Councillor Young. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Welcome, Alice.
Thank you. Through Your Worship, this report presents the calendar of council and committee meetings from the 1st of January 2025 up until the local body election in October 2025. The schedule follows the same pattern as this year and always has allowances to change if required.
Setting the schedule this early just allows council officers and councillors to prepare their work programs well in advance. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Alice. Yeah, look, it's, as you say, thank you for the work, though, that's gone into this. I'm sure councillors will note their diaries with the council meetings and structure any holidays or anything they've got coming up in the next 12 months around that. But also noting, of course, that council effectively makes no more decisions after the July meeting or the June meeting. In fact, it'll probably be before 3 months out from the election. So, yeah, thank you. So, the recommendation is 3.3, the council adopts the schedule of meetings for the committees of council for the period January 2025 to October 2025 based on a 12-week cycle as set out in Appendix A. 3.4, the council notes the additional ordinary, extraordinary and multi-day meetings may be scheduled from time to time in consultation with the Mayor and Chief Executive. The council notes that meeting times for council and committees will be publicly advertised when they are required in accordance with the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 and the Local Government Act 2002. Happy to move. Seconded by Councillor Olsen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. All right. 8.1. The Horowhenua Company Limited Economic Development Services Contract Report from 1st of October 2021 to the 30th of June 2024. Welcome, David. As you come to the table, can we just move 2.1, 2.2, that the report be received, seconded by Councillor Young. All those in favour? Welcome, Katrina. Welcome, Brendan. David, yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr Mayor, Councillors. Pleased to have alongside me today Brendan Duffy, Chair of the Horowhenua Company, and next to him Katrina Whenua-Mackay, Chief Executive of the Horowhenua Company Limited. So while the focus of the report today is looking back over what has been achieved and delivered by the Horowhenua Company Limited as part of the contract to deliver economic development services for Council, I have used a short cover report to also signpost two related pieces of work that Council will have an interest in. The first of those being the Sage Bush Report on Economic Development in Horowhenua. That report is on track to be presented back to Council at the October Council meeting, and we look forward to discussing that then. The second is in relation to the Section 17A review that's commencing this month. And based on the current timetable, councillors can anticipate seeing the report from this independent review before Christmas this year. And it will be here or there where Council gets to make a decision on the service delivery model for 2025/26 and beyond. So I did note that one of the speakers earlier spoke of this report today, but referenced around not seeing the contract continue. Just want to reiterate that is the purposes of this report. This report is presenting an update on what has happened over the period of the contract. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Brendan and Katrina.
Thank you, David, and your worship and councillors. Thanks for the opportunity to present to you the previous 2.5 years of work that the Horowhenua Company has undertaken. You'll notice on the front that we go from October 2021 through to June 2024, so just shy of the 3 years. This is the first contract that we've had between you, the council, and us, the Horowhenua Company, and it's an important piece of work, I'm sure that you will agree. Succinctly, you'll see on pages 17 to 23 the deliverables that were set by you and delivered by us, and we're open to questions around any of those deliverables. With regards to the financials, you'll see on pages 35 to 37 the breakdown of that investment made made by you in terms of the contract that you set with us, and that may well provide opportunity for you to ask some questions. Just before I pass over to Katrina, who'll highlight the key areas and obviously we'll open for questions, I do want to acknowledge Horowhenua trustee Joe Mason here this afternoon, remembering it's the trust that appoints the directors to the company, so that connection is important. So it's great that Joe's here in support. So with those key points of highlighting a reasonable sized document, I'll pass over to Katrina to go through highlight points and then questions.
Kia ora. Thanks, Brendan, and talo falava. Nice to see you all. So I'm just going to make a few points highlighting some of the key achievements and really open to questions from you or request for clarification. So I guess starting really from the last, the two years, 9 months that we held this contract, we've had two main focuses. The first has been to improve core service delivery. That's with our business engagement, our BA5 program. Over the course of that period, we've seen an increase in the numbers attending BA5s and an increase in the diversity of people coming. We've put a lot of effort into improving our storytelling, shouting out the success of local businesses, and providing case studies about research that we've undertaken or particular activities that have been completed. We've seen the resulting engagement from our customers improve. We're now sitting at an NPS of 65, so that's a very, very strong NPS rating. So we're very proud of the fact that the efforts that we've put into improving core service delivery and business engagement has improved. But we've also put quite a lot of effort in the last period of this contract into extending the reach that we have within the business community, particularly with our small to medium-sized businesses, where we can demonstrate the most significant impact in terms of some of the long-term capability development. Establishing a Women in Business network, which gives an opportunity for women entrepreneurs to get together and make connections and form a community that uplifts and supports new women coming into the business world, and extending our reach beyond live-in so that we're not only focused on the major urban area in Horowhenua. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of our key achievements, the things that I'm most proud of in terms of what the team has achieved during the period of this contract. So the first is that we have been able to continue the support that we have done, that was done previously in achieving government support for businesses. So on page 9, you'll just see a reference there to under the previous government regional economic development funding program, the success that we had in supporting two businesses, one a research and development start prototype business based in Foxton, receiving a $2 million loan from Kānoa, and the second live-in based manufacturing business with an investment in increased automation to improve productivity and reduce waste, TechLam, so $1.75 million. So those don't happen by mistake. They're very deliberate pieces of work that we do, working with government officials to bring forward local businesses for funding from central government. The second point that I alluded to just before, which I am particularly proud of and I think really demonstrates the value of having a dedicated team working with small businesses, is the success that we've had since March 2023, beg your pardon, when we were able to subcontract the regional business partner funding directly from CEDA in Palmerston North. That's a funding program run by MB to support the capability uplift of small to medium-sized businesses. We negotiated a subcontract to employ a dedicated business growth advisor here, working as part of our team. And just as an example of some of that kind of the breadth of activity that we're able to have, my comparison would be the year before we subcontracted this, Horowhenua businesses had 15 engagements through a resource that was based in Palmerston North. Just in August, we've been working with 12 businesses. 5 of those Pākehā Māori, 9 of them are female owned. 1 is from Waikawa Beach, 2 from Foxton, 1 from Shannon, and 8 from Levin, covering a range of sectors: digital tech, health and safety, a food producer, Māori project and cultural engagement specialist, hospitality, surveying, cleaner, property developer, photographer, beautician, and a health product startup. So that's the kind of engagements that we're having month in and month out now, because we have got capabilities sitting in Horowhenua that was previously being delivered through third parties. Not only does the program allow us to actually understand what the challenges are for business, but allows us to provide some co-funding through the MB Fund. And we have been able to provide co-funding training for around about $35,000 towards business finance capability, digital marketing, leadership, and business coaching. So these are investments that are growing the long-term capability of our businesses, which is exactly where economic development should be focused. The last thing that the point that I wanted to make is in relation to the continued work that we're doing that really dovetails into the presentation that you've just had from your Mayor's Task Force for Jobs program. And that's the work that we undertake through GetGo. So as you're aware, GetGo was started with some funding from MB. That funding concluded in November last year, but we've maintained the program of working with the colleges, the 3 colleges in Horowhenua, to provide a work-ready program for our young people at college. A couple of things that you're well aware of the Futures Day program, the flagship program. Council has been a employer supporting that program in a very active way in the last 2 years. But I think it's also what we're doing more now is working to think about how do we improve the system. So taking the lead from Councillor Horowhenua, who recently brought a small group of senior students to a Business After 5 to give them an exposure to some of the broader thinking that's out there. We have made an arrangement with the 3 colleges to host senior students at Business After 5s, where they see that there'll be topics of interest to their senior students, to give them an exposure to some of the business thinking and the broader economic thinking. We have extended our reference group to have a stronger input from industry. So we now have a representative from manufacturing, from horticulture, and from civil environmental construction sitting as members to help guide and shape the development of that program. And we've been lucky then in the last 12 months to have a resource provided by the Ministry of Education to help develop a program for Horowhenua, looking at how we can better use opportunities for work experience and to engage make meaningful connections with employers across our sectors. So those are the key points that I wanted to bring to your attention. But really, as Brendan said, very, very happy to answer questions, provide further clarification.
Anyone got any questions of the report? Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, look, so just wanted to acknowledge the really high quality report. I think it really, really clearly demonstrates the value for money return on investment. And I really liked the little commentary from the different members of our community in terms of the contribution and how they've seen. But my question was going to be around just to test my understanding of companies' past focus, but also future focus in terms of around O2L. And so I just wanted to test that my understanding is that sort of three key pillars to it, which is supporting local businesses to get the most out of the procurement processes that will come. 2, supporting retail and live-in terms of the forum and helping them sort of prepare and adjust to what's going to come. And that's sort of linked to the live-in town centre broader work. And then also sort of leaning into Foxton as well in terms of what their future looks like once the O2L opens. Is my understanding sort of correct in terms of the focus around O2L? Have I captured that?
Yep, that is exactly right. The only additional thing I think that I would add is that through the work of GetGo, we are looking at how to make sure that there are the work done being led by the Legacy Outcomes team in the project, provides pathways to employment for our young people in colleges to the extent that we have got an agreement from the alliance partners to make O2L a key focus for next year's Futures Day. But you're quite right. Our work with market engagement of businesses, which was commenced last year by holding an information evening where we brought Waka Kotahi and council together to provide information to the local business community, gave them the opportunity to commence a registration of interest process that's provided us the opportunity to understand which businesses are most interested in working as part of O2L in the broader context. And we are in the middle of finalising arrangements with the project team about how we will provide that really specific procurement support. The Live-in Town Centre, I sit as part of the reference group on the Live-in Town Centre, and part of that role is about bringing an understanding of our current retail environment, some of the economics and the constraints that we have currently, and where some of the lessons are that we can learn from other organisations or other parts of the country that have had similar bypass activity. And then finally, yes, Foxton. I do have a bit to say about Foxton actually, and so I guess one of the things that we've been really conscious of with Foxton is that it's important to support that community coming together to understand what its future destination is. We have done a bit of work in that space through RBP. In the last 18 months, we've had 11 Foxton businesses that we've delivered services to from a range of different things. We now have a monthly drop-in session in Foxton for our business growth advisor to engage with local business on their issues. I'm a member of Foxton Futures, providing support in terms of the broader program of that. We've held 3 Foxton business breakfasts. The first was to try and elicit the ambitions of Foxton businesses, and the latter 2 have also been working in conjunction with council to provide a platform for the community planning activity and to encourage Foxton businesses to engage in that. We've held a business after 5 at Te Hauahoa Nordstrom, and we have one scheduled there in October this year. And as I said before, we've provided some funding to Foxton businesses, the Foxton startup businesses. I guess where we see the key opportunities for Foxton really come through Foxton Futures as being the mechanism to draw both the community and the business community together. We stand by ready to support Foxton businesses as they want to collaborate, really.
Can I just have one very brief thought? Do we have a sense, and it might be that it's too early, but do we have a sense of the kind of the quantification range of potential opportunity and benefit to our community through O2NL procurement? Like, do we have kind of an understanding of, is this just a couple of $1 million worth of procurement opportunity, or is it actually much larger? Like, have you got a sense of where it is?
No, I don't have. I know that those decisions being made at the moment, but it is certainly it's a significant opportunity. This is a $1.6 billion project, and we could expect benefits in the broader procurement, so perhaps not just the direct procurement, but secondary and tertiary procurement opportunities in the hundreds of millions of dollars for our local community.
So just to add to that, just today I was speaking to a local provider who, if successful with their bid, their quote, would have 2 years worth of work for that business, full. So there's a lot of opportunity out there that will come to fruition that we don't know the final number yet, but it's significant. Yeah.
Yes, Brendan.
Thanks, Brendan. Thanks, Katrina. Questions around your support to small businesses. Really keen to understand what sort of support, collectively, what sort of support would that be? Is that more like support within your organisation and advice, or is it connections, or is it just a myriad of things? Because obviously we know the importance of small, medium enterprises, business enterprises in terms of overall employment, etc. So really keen to understand what your support looks like.
Excellent. I'd say that there are three elements to it. So the first is providing businesses the opportunity to articulate their ambitions and get advice on that. That can be through the RBP program, the Regional Business Partner Program. There's a specific process that we go through called a discovery session, where we'll sit down and identify their current state, where they're wanting to go to, and provide advice in respect of what activities they need to undertake. Being able to connect them and co-fund them into some specific business capability development, so some of the types of training opportunities that I outlined before. The third thing is where local businesses have a service offering that extends that's valuable to other businesses, being able to connect them so that they can work collectively, even to the extent of having local businesses registered as providers for services across the country through the RBP. So those are the kind of key mechanisms. And then I think the one that can't be underestimated is sounding board. Having somebody who can hear what the pain that people are going through, connect them with other people that are feeling similar types of pain, and actually share success stories.
Probably a great example, we're all aware of the SkyTrain, the Elon Musk SkyTrain. There's a person in Levin who's developed a system to secure what's the screen thing called? The satellite screen. So this person in Levin is the first in the world to develop a system to secure the screen onto a multiple range of features. So we met this person. This is about connectivity. This is about making things happen, and was able to connect this person with a very successful tech innovator in New Zealand, and they are now having meaningful discussions. One very, very simple example of many, where simply connecting the right people to other parties that they've never heard of, you never know what the end result will be. But this guy lives about 1 kilometre from where we're all sitting now, and I think that innovation was multiplied many, many, many times across our district.
Yes, no problem.
Thanks for the report. I always enjoy the dashboard as well. They're very informative. Just 2 comments. It's great to see that MTA are being recognised for the contribution they're making to the economy of this region as well. They're a large employer and have a lot of business potential, I suppose, or interest. The second comment is, I'm fascinated by our food producers here and the innovation in our food producers here. How well do they connect with the science centres up in Palmerston North? And all the facilities that they now have to offer in terms of commercialising products and helping out with the various things they need to do to develop their products as well. There's a lot of resource and capability up there which is freely available. Food HQ and others, and Reddit Centre and all those places.
Yep, so you will have seen in the report that we did a piece of work around food for our food producer community, looking at both what are the strategies, the plans, the opportunities, and the funding sources available. We have had a couple of sessions with food producers, connecting them into, so there's two types that we kind of think about: food producers and food processors. So people who are growing, using the land to grow produce, and then people who are taking produce and turning it into a product that is then sold. So we work with both groups. Actually, later this month, we're having a Food Innovators Forum for our local food producer cohort, where we are bringing people from Food HQ, Food Innovation Network, Callaghan, Agmart, funding sources, MPI, to come and give them information about the opportunities for innovation, both in the food production space and the food processing space. I would say in our food producing community, it's a mixture of very, very established industry leaders, and they don't need very much help from us. What they are very keen to understand who's coming behind them and who they can support. But in our food processor, that's where you get your artisan and your innovation and the pop-ups coming through, and that's where we see putting a bit of effort into supporting them with funding and prototyping and product development opportunities.
So the easiest example is tonight I'm going to be sampling ice cream made from cauliflower. And if you think about, serious, we know how large our vegetable growing community is here. Can you imagine the potential? One example. Well, you know where it was made, you know where the design came from, so you never know.
Feeling a little ill after that comment, Brenda. Thank you both. And look, I do join with Sam in saying that I found the report very rich, very detailed, and very informative. And, you know, a number of stats contained in there. One of the ones that I think was very helpful and informative, that rounded up 85% of businesses would refer the company to other businesses. So there's clearly a mandate there for success. Pleased also, you know, Sammy drilled down a bit into O2 and L, because the potential that can come from the company's involvement in that process is huge. And I welcome your involvement, and may it continue, and may it be really robust. I did have a bit of an issue around Foxton. Thank you for the extra detail that you've provided, Katrina, tonight. And I guess it's about sort of outputs versus outcomes. So, you know, the stats around how many business breakfasts we've had there and so on, that's good, that's showing connection, but what's the concrete, you know, what are the outcomes? And we've seen that your role in the $2 million loan for 26 Story, that to me is helpful. I can say, hey, here's an outcome from your involvement. And so just anything that is concrete that we can see tangibly as a result of your presence. And I know that, and I welcome your support for Foxton Futures as being the big driver in the future, because I agree with that. And your continued connection, I think, is going to be very welcome, very helpful. But the opportunity, I suppose, in going down into the weeds a bit, is the champions in Foxton. So I'd like to see some faces with some commentary, people in Foxton saying, hey, look, the company did this for me. It happened. It's there in the report from other areas. And so just some stuff like that which shows results from your engagement would be helpful. I don't know whether you have any response
Just
to that.
before Katrina answers, if you go to page 11, you'll see James Davis Sigley. Is he Foxton?
No. So of some of the businesses that we have had direct engagement with in Foxton, Jumpstart Fitness, E-Rea, Robert Harris, Stonewood Homes, Filter Disposal, Fox's Cottage, Petal & B Grocer, Impact Consulting, 4AG, Nicola Ross, Angie's Agri. We've worked quite closely with Turks on their plans for future development. A local Foxton property developer, we're working with him on opportunities for commercial tenancies. So there are a number. And our focus, as I said, one of the things that we put quite a more emphasis on is telling the stories through their words and their pictures, and us just being the voice. Yeah.
Councillor Grimstone.
Yeah, ditto again on the report. Appreciated it. It was good read. Love the storytelling. Particularly like the economic dashboard. So following on from a conversation of the Live in Town Centre meeting that we had last night, just keen to get your feedback and indicatives, more looking forward than looking back, about two issues that sort of, flag. One being the increase in the NEET numbers, which is significantly higher than national levels. So trying to think about what levers that as council and as our economic development company could be or should be looking to actually address that within the context of Horowhenua, but also Live in Town Centre. And the other piece was just, that commentary around the retail breakdown has increased, which is a bit of a yahoo, but still slower than regional and national levels, and more particularly pointing to that breakdown that when we're spending money, we're spending it on the essentials. So how, as a council and lever, can we break that down so that we can get more discretionary spend? And I think you put it quite nicely last night, and I thought it'd be useful for the table to hear.
Thank you, Councillor Grimstone. I'm just trying to remember what I said last night. So just first of all on the needs. When the Get Go program was first started, it was started through a piece of research commissioned by council, done by Martin Jenkins. At that point, Horowhenua had the second highest NEETs rates in the country, second only to South Auckland, and it was in around about 26%. And that was what gave birth to the Get Go program and the work with colleges to stop kids becoming NEETs, to give them an ambition and a sense of confidence and a connection to the world of work. And that's where the whole Get Go program arose from. We'd all like to say it's because of the things that we did, but I think COVID had quite a lot to do with, and a very buoyant pre-COVID economy had quite a lot to do with the fact that our NEETs rates plummeted. We were down to 12% immediately after COVID, because we were in a very, very constrained labour market and people could walk out of school and get a job just like that. The economy's shifted, and always is what's most unfortunate when the economy shifts is that the people who are most impacted are the people who are youngest with the least skills, and that's why and so our NEETs rates is up. It's tracking well above national average. Around the 20% mark becomes a real problem for us in thinking about long-term sustained economic and community outcomes, which is why programs like Mayor's Task Force for Jobs and the work that MSD does and the work that HLC does is so important to help those that are already in that position. But I'd also argue the work that we're doing with the colleges and the PTEs and UCOL and the vocational training to stop young people becoming NEETs, give them a connection, is so important. I think the other thing, and it leads into the Live in Town Centre piece, is our retail numbers at the moment. Yes, we're tracking okay in terms of the number of transactions, well, the value of transactions. That's because everything's really expensive. In Horowhenua, we have a very thin retail offering. Our retail offerings are not broad and they're not deep. They are essential services, so they are fuel, supermarkets, takeaways, liquor, and trade-related retail. We don't have the breadth of retail offerings that are going to support a growing economy, which is why we think the Live in Town Centre Revitalisation Program is so important for creating a better retail experience to support the changing dynamic and the changing demographic of our population, as well as providing opportunities for young engagement of young people in different kind of activities and different jobs. So I don't know if that's how I said it last night, but I do believe quite strongly that we've got to think quite hard about how do we attract the kind of retail offerings and the commercial offerings that will fit the identity that we want this town to have going forward.
And I make a linkage to some of the work being done around the steering group and the draft plan around you looking at the industrial and commercial zoning mix and the part that could play in critically delivering that change.
Absolutely. So having a vibrant town centre is one part of the puzzle, and having a cohesive plan for integrated growth, which has the different zones, precincts. I'm a big fan of precincts, so that you are putting the activity, like-minded activity, where you are able to support it and you are being very deliberate about it, so you can attract the kind of investment that you want to.
Thank you, team. Yep. Echo those words around the report. It was really, really good, full and comprehensive, and look forward to the further work we do together. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we're now moving on to 8.2, which is the Horowhenua District Council Organisation Performance Report for September 2024. Can I move 2.1, 2.2, that the report be received? Seconded by Deputy Mayoral. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The Chief Executive is going to introduce this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, what you've got before you is the interim organisation performance report. So obviously it's the shorter report, but it is the first time that we have reported on the new top 12 priorities as reflected in the plan on a page that Council endorsed at your most recent Council meeting. I will take the report as read, but between myself and group managers, we're happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Jennings.
I'm going to just make a comment and then try and turn it into a question. Because, but I just wanted to acknowledge particularly the financial performance information. I thought it was really clear, and also to acknowledge the end of year result and the operational savings target and what was achieved there. So sort of a big pat on the back to the team for that. I guess there's a question around ensuring that we have that laser focus on financial performance and financial discipline, and ensuring that we do what we say we're going to do in terms of our planning. I guess how can we as a governance table better support officers and your team, Monique, in terms of ensuring that we are leaning into the finances and actually making sure that we are, as I say, assisting you in terms of that laser focus on the finances.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if it's okay if I answer it. So from that perspective, there's a couple of things we're going to try this year, and they've come from conversations both through the council meetings and also through the Risk and Assurance Committee. One of those is the finances will continue to be integrated into the organisation performance report, but what we will do is make sure that when we are talking about that through each meeting, that will have a sort of a mini presentation where we'll get into the detail of it with the table, so that there's an opportunity to discuss it and to highlight all the key elements of it that we think are useful and would be meaningful for the whole council table to discuss. As well, more than happy at any point for small subgroups of the council table to, if they're open to it, to meet either before or after council meetings, or at any point to sort of dig into the detail a little bit more. If there's a little bit of discussion that might want to happen at different levels, then we can also do that. And lastly is the conversation about risk and assurance, and the committee not having the role to oversee finances that the council has, but to have an oversight role in terms of the finances and the risks associated with finance. So we will be partnering with yourself and the independent members in the next couple of weeks to build a dashboard view of key financial metrics or information that we think would be useful for that committee to have oversight on, so that there's a bit of a view. And that can also come to the council table as well.
Thanks very much, Jacinta. That's brilliant.
Anyone else? Councillor Olsen. No, not really a question, but just a comment. It's really great to see just that, I suppose, the camaraderie and that amongst staff just reinforced within that organisation values highlight, I guess those awards. And being a councillor present at that event, I think it's it just shows you the positive culture that we've got within council now, and it was just something I wanted to comment on, because I think we've probably come a long way even within my time to see what we've got in front of us today. So but yeah, so just pat on the back more than anything. Thank you.
Certainly echo those words. It's nice to see staff in a public document being recognised rather than sort of just always being hidden in the background in terms of the contribution they do make to the community as well. Councillor Grimston.
Yeah, I guess like the CD, because one of the things that was called out in the report was the sick leave bank. So first time I'd heard about it or read it, and I agree with the context that it sounds quite innovative, but I'd just like an idea, where did that come from, how did it come about, essentially?
Sick leave bank isn't that innovative. However, what was innovative, that it was a staff member's suggestion that instead of doing everyone put some money in for Daffodil Day, that how about we used the sick leave bank as an opportunity to put a specific project together around any staff members facing cancer treatment. And I think that's pretty relevant at the moment for us inside the organisation. And so we obviously saw some enormous generosity from staff whereby they donated their sick leave into a place that will be used for good when the time is needed.
All right, thank you. So there was a recommendation at the end of that 2.3 that having considered all matters raised in the organisation performance report September 24, that the report be noted. Seconded by Councillor Olsen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. All right, moving to 8.3, Council Resolution and Actions Monitoring Report, August 2024. Move 2.1, 2.2, the report be received. Seconded by Councillor Brannigan. Thank you. All those in favour? Any items on that report that councillors wish to ask about or seek clarification on? Councillor Tukapua.
In light of the recent email minute you shared around government's shift of funding cycleways, and there was a list of things in a letter that you attached, how might that affect, if anything, the red marked on page 193? or can, because it is about revocation, but then in Sam's words, we're being screwed over. And then we get that announcement with the email you forwarded us. Is this going to be a challenge? 193 at the red. Yeah.
So
what might be the solution?
Yeah, through your worship. I think yesterday's announcement and allocation of funding for the next 3 years doesn't directly impact this, because this is in light of the broader revocation conversation to have with the government, which we've started that conversation with the minister as of Tuesday off the back of the tolling announcement. What I would say though is that the announcement yesterday on our funding allocation for the next 3 years puts us at significant risk of being able to deliver and maintain our roading network as currently is. And so what that does is creates further challenges when we think about, well, what does that look like in a world where revocation might happen. Next Wednesday, James and Daniel are going to be presenting to council what that letter as of yesterday means, what some options might be for us, and to seek some guidance from council around how we move forward, both on a kind of an advocacy leadership front, a level of service and reprioritisation front, but also how do we have some really blunt conversations with the community. We're going to have to stop doing so because we are $8 million short than what we need over the next 3 years to deliver current levels of service.
Councillor Tamihana.
Kia ora, thanks for the report. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. One was around CO2 23219, which is right of first refusal. I've got the big red scribe for it. Page 189 in our agenda. So I just see that it's not progressing. So there's a couple of things I want to ask. Is how will that be progressed? Because I know there's an appetite to see that come back to council. But I'm also interested in, do we have any arrangements currently in our district around rights of first refusal, whether that be to Māori or other? So I am interested to know if we're already doing that with parties. That's the first one. I've got a second one after.
Yeah, so the first rights of refusal for Mana Whenua, obviously there is work that has been progressed. However, it's not in a position where iwi partners have essentially given their blessing or endorsement that they are comfortable with it. And Councillor and Councillor Boyle and Councillor Horowhenua, who are the elected members appointed to work with officers on this work, will be aware that I think that there is some risk that the whole process has been overcomplicated and maybe broadening the scope of what the initial resolution from council was. In terms of how to move forward from here, the sage advice from Councillor Boyle is he wants me to be far more direct with my communication with iwi partners about how we might take this forward, and my intent was to use the PAG tomorrow to do that, Councillor Tamihana, because I think that's probably the best forum in which I can express the need for us to move at pace to give this an ending, whatever the ending is. In terms of your second question, there will be particular leases that council have with particular groups of people where within the lease document it will allow them first rights of purchase if council was to sell it. But beyond that, I'm not aware of any direct arrangements we have with particular parties or particular individuals.
Sorry, I'd certainly like to understand what those arrangements look like. The second one I wanted to raise was, it's number 20 it's called, and that's on page 192. And it was just around the naming of the Riverloop Reserve. Is that status still the same, or have we progressed? And it's only because I saw some emails come through, so I was just a little bit unsure.
just hand over to Brent because I know there was a meeting not on the 28th but on the 29th.
Thanks, Monique. And through your worship, yes, there has been some a subsequent meeting in the reporting period after this report was written. I believe it was a positive meeting, and now the next steps are talking around how this is brought back, the process of bringing it back through council. So it has progressed from what's been written there since it was written.
Awesome, thank you.
Councillor Jennings.
Can we also celebrate the first one, 166, with the lease being signed after? Yeah.
It's always nice to see blue squares or rectangles on that report, and I'm sure we won't miss that not being on the report in the future. All right, moving now to 9.1, which is the proceedings of the Risk and Assurance Committee held on the 7th of August. Move that this report be received. Seconded by Councillor Jennings. All those in favour? Then moving to, is there anything in those minutes that you want to highlight, Councillor Jennings?
I think Jacinta sort of highlighted just the point around the financial risk component. So, yep, no, that's great. Thank you.
Cool. 9.2, the proceedings of the Te Awaho Foxton Community Board from the 19th of August 2024. Move that these be received and noted. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Any items in there that people wish to raise? No. 9.3, proceedings of the Community Wellbeing Committee from the 14th of August 2024. Move that this be received and noted. Seconded by Councillor or Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And then 9.4, the proceedings of the Chief Executive Employment and Performance Committee of the 31st of July 2024. Move that these minutes be received and noted. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of our public agenda. I'll move that we now move to in committee, where the following, the public will be excluded from the following parts of the proceedings of the meeting. C1, which is Council Resolution and Actions Monitoring Report for August 2024. Proceedings of the public excluded session of the Risk and Assurance Committee, 14th of August 2024. And the proceedings of the public excluded session of the Chief Executive Employment and Performance Committee. I have a seconder for that. Councillor Jennings. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So we'll just